This is CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy Color Computer, with your host, Mr. Gameplay Goodness himself, CoCoSDC. All right, nothing like overproducing a show. Welcome to CoCoTALK, everybody. What episode is this? Are we on 25 now? I'm losing track.
25.
I think we're on 25. Wow, we're old enough now to get a discount on our automobile insurance at this point, so that's pretty good.
Quarter century old.
Quarter of a century. And we've got a nice little turnout today for CoCoTALK episode 25, so I'll just go around the room here. We have Mark Overholzer with us. Hello, Mark. We have Bill Noble from the Great White North. We have Richard Cavell from the UK. We've got Glen Hewlett from somewhere in Canada. We have host of the CoCoCREW podcast, John W. Linville. We have Ron's Garage of fame and fortune, Ron Delvaux is here. We have King of the Floppy, David Ladd is with us. We have the lovely and talented Grant Leedy, and last but certainly not least, L. Curtis Boyle, and the L stands for Let's Get It On. All right, so here we have it, and this is the Hurricane Irma edition of CoCoTALK, as we try not to be blown away by the storm. A couple people in live chat are here right now, so Steve Powell has joined us. Hello, Steve.
Hey, you got your CoCo 3 yet?
And FiceGap is here. Paul Fiscarelli is here. Welcome. Atari Leaf is here. All right, Atari Leaf is here from Canada as well. Hey, Atari Leaf. So, yeah, we've got an international panel and an international audience. Where are you broadcasting from? Yeah, I'm broadcasting from a bunker somewhere.
Are you guys getting any of the wind and stuff yet? Or is it still too far south?
It's really minor right now, yeah. So, thanks, everybody, for being here. Great show. Mr. Linville, how are you, sir?
Doing okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Using a Windows laptop, you never know what it's going to...
And you're using Skype on top of it, so you're really screwed then.
Yeah, it's the double Microsoft effect. It's a glitchy app on top of a glitchy OS, so what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, nothing.
Norlander has just joined us. Hey, Norlander. So, yeah, we don't have a topic today, but we can talk about the CoCoCREW podcast because John Linville is here, and we did talk about this a little bit last week. And Glen Hewlett is here as well, which was the subject of the interview last week. Glen, great interview. Again, definitely appreciated hearing you on the CoCoCREW podcast. And what I kind of like about the different shows and the different formats is that, you know, when we interview you here on CoCoTALK, I'm pretty much distracted by playing the game, so it's really hard to focus on actually interviewing you. So we do manage to get some information out of you, but as soon as you get over to the CoCoCREW, that's when we get all the good stuff. So yeah, it was definitely good to hear you there. Great interview. And it was good too. So the follow-up is what was it, Hackaday, that this project has made its way to as well? And,
yeah, that was kind of neat. Yeah,
that was definitely neat. And John Linville mentions a lot of things that go on in Hackaday as far as this other projects that could become CoCo projects. So that was really cool to see. You know, the project get some exposure. Get obviously Glen getting the exposure, and more importantly, the CoCo. So yeah, very cool stuff. I felt like it was a very short article. You know, it wasn't a super technical review. It didn't get into how cool it actually was. It was more like an FYI piece, but it was still good nonetheless. I feel like it's just, to me, it's so mind-boggling that it can be done. You know, is anybody watching Silicon Valley now? Or has anybody seen it?
I've seen it. I've been able to keep up with it.
Oh yeah, so I
really enjoy it.
Yeah, the guy who's the chief engineer, it's just like he's so technical and so anal. I just feel like I sometimes relate to that when you want to talk about how amazing something is. You can't do it in a paragraph, but sometimes you have to. So,
has he talked about 20 sector floppies yet? Is the real question.
No, they haven't gotten that deep yet. So, Feiscap says he watches it all the time. So yeah, it was a great episode of the CoCoCREW podcast. A lot of great Myro content as always. We had Myro on last week too. We got to play the commercial for the neglected Cocos and save a Coco. That was pretty cool stuff. Going around the room, who's got anything you want to talk about this week as far as things you've done in the world of retro, or things you've seen, done, read, viewed that we might find interesting?
Not too much for myself, except for I finally got a hold of the actual RIBS source code from OS9.
Nice.
Which source code?
RIBS, the BBS. It's a full multi-user one.
Nice.
Yeah, and Fido-Net compatible too.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, since we have John here too of the CoCoCREW podcast, I was going to share something with you, some plans that are brewing, and I don't know if I've emailed you about this yet, but Bill and Curtis have recently gotten in touch with Wes. What's Wes's last name?
Gail.
Wes Dale?
Gail.
Right? Gale. Wes Gale. And you guys were kind of like the three Musketeers that started the original Nitrous 9? Right, so we've recently gotten in touch with Wes, and so we want to try to plan a Nitrous 9 interview, and we'd like to have the CoCoCREW in on that too, to ask questions and make it maybe a joint interview and discussion, and be even more than happy to let you guys have the first right of refusal if you want to air it first on the CoCoCREW podcast before we air it. It doesn't have to be live or anything, but I feel it's probably a good discussion that we could probably milk into a couple different parts, like when you guys first started to when Alan DeCock came in, and eventually how it got handed over to Boise. I think there's probably 3 chapters at least we could probably get out of this that could be cross the CoCoCREW podcast as well as CoCoTALK, and just.
Or we can have our very first full 9-hour episode.
So that's just something that's in the incubation stages right now. But when that happens, we definitely like to have you guys, part of that interview.
Sure, that sounds worthwhile. We'll have to look at that. Scheduling has become our biggest thing. It's one person you can schedule it whenever, and 2 people it wasn't too hard, and now you add one more person, and nobody's got a particular problem, or nobody's particularly difficult, but once you get 2 people.
Yeah, we're having the same issue, so I totally agree.
It seems to be hard to reconcile that sometimes. But yeah, that plus I don't know if it's really a secret or not, but I think we're going to be doing another episode with the Trash Talk folks here before Tandy Assembly.
Okay.
So anyway, I'm sure we'd like to do that. It's just a matter of figuring out the schedule.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
my schedule is busy for a couple weeks too. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't do it before the end of the month at the very earliest.
Yeah, it would probably be an after Tandy Assembly thing anyway. So I think we all got full dance cards leading up to that, especially the organizers of the event. So, but it's just something that we're thinking about, and I definitely wanted to include you guys with that because you do a heck of a lot better job interviewing. And typically Curtis is my straight man when it comes to technical talk, and since we're going to be interviewing Curtis, I'm like, well, who's going to be my Curtis to interview Curtis? So I need.
I can ask myself questions. You deserve a raise. Oh, damn straight you do.
So yeah, I'd really like to, we'll get that going at some point in time. Atari Leaf says I'm trying to learn to solder. That's an adventure, I bet.
Don't solder your hair. That's my first recommendation.
All right. Welcome, Mike Newman. Well, let's talk about the bomb threat cartridges, which you've posted on Facebook. I think those look really good. And let me try to find that real quick, and I'll switch over where everybody else can see it. How many of those have you got going right now?
Can you see that? I can't see my own video feed, but I'm holding something up to the camera. You see
No,
it?
your camera's not on. I just see like your profile picture.
Okay. Well, I don't know how to turn it on then.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyway, well, I'm working towards 24 right
Nice.
now. And that's going to include a copy, of course, for Rick, and there's maybe a couple others that are sort of pre-allocated, but we hope to have at least 20 available at Tandy Assembly. And but yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the standard package. Got the instruction cards on order. They should come in this week. Same boxes, same cases, similar labels. The label design is from Rick's son, Joel. Right?
Joel is his son. Yes.
Yeah. So he did the artwork there. Anyway, we should have them available. We'll be charging $40 in the box.
Nice.
And yeah, I think that's still a fair price. I'm looking at complete inbox homebrew games for other systems, and on the Nintendo they're going to $60 regularly. So
wow, that's yeah. I think I've just got it pulled up right now. Okay, I've got it pulled up on my screen now. The actual cartridge, what it looks like, and it looks really good. I'm trying to maximize this window. I swear to God, I am so computer illiterate. All right, here we go. So here is the cartridge full screen. And I love what Joel's done here, because he definitely kept the retro Tandy thing where you've got that kind of 3D shadow leading into the image. So it's definitely Tandy inspired. And it's in the red injection molded cartridge. It's got a red label that's fairly close match to that. And it kind of doesn't have to match anyways, but it looks good there. Here's the side label, Bomb Threat, Rick Adams. He's got a catalog, and this is cool. The catalog number is 84-2017 because he started it in 1984, and he redid it in 2017. So that's kind of a cool little thing right there. A game for your Tandy Color Computer, Bomb Threat by Rick Adams. That looks really good. Here's a side view of the label. That looks really good. That's a really good looking label. Here's the top view. There you can see the nice shiny teeth of the card edge. Looking good. And there it is in a CoCo, slapped into the side of a CoCo cartridge. And here it is up on the screen. So yeah, that looks really good. That is a really cool, a nice little thing to have just in time for Tandy Assembly. Looks really good. So I want to thank you for doing that. And I'm glad Rick had the, I badgered the hell out of him to make sure that we got this on a cartridge, but I'm glad he had the good sense.
Yeah.
Still want to make this on a cartridge. So,
if I could, if we're still going around the room, I'd like to mention also I've opened the open for entrance, open the entrance list for the Retrochallenge event for October 2017.
Okay.
And so if you go to retrochallenge.org, there's a link there for you can see the current entrants, you can see the rules for the contest, you can see the last events results.
Okay.
But anyway,
I just posted a link to that in the YouTube chat.
So that's it's just a twice yearly event where geeks come together and do something weird with an old computer and blog about it. And
yeah. Part of the rules is the project needs to be completed in 30 days.
It should be 30 days. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely on my bucket list to enter that at one point in time. I got so much on my plate, it's hard to find a project I can commit to for a month.
It's hard to get that 30 days.
Yeah. But I'm thinking, hey, Retro Gaming Denmark has just joined us. Greetings from Denmark, they say.
Welcome.
So welcome to CoCoTALK. Yeah, I'm thinking that when I actually get started on whatever game I'm going to write in BASIC, that if the timing is right, I can maybe make that a retro challenge too. Once I figure out what I'm going to do, if I can get a working prototype done in 30 days, that might be a cool retro challenge thing too.
Yeah, and you certainly don't have to finish per se, but it's more about how much you achieve or whatever. Set your own goals, really.
Yeah.
Could be finishing the graphics engine on an existing project or something like that.
Okay. Well, that certainly makes it a little bit easier. And that was one of the things that the global thermal nuclear war was part of.
Yep.
It was very cool to get that done in 30 days.
I can maybe do play testing for somebody in 30 days.
And we're missing our favorite Australian right now, Nick Marentis.
Maybe we can get Nick Marionettes to sub
Yeah. Oh well. Speaking of that, we'll do that when we head over to talking about the new OS9 group, because one of the questions that Ron asked was there any Easter eggs in OS9? And I think Bruce Moore, since Bruce is just now getting into it, he actually found something, and he sent me a video clip that we're going to make as a world exclusive here. So we'll show it here first, and then we'll release it to the OS9 group page as well. But yeah, so apparently Bruce has found an Easter egg in OS9. Matter of fact, with all of that build-up, I think I would be remiss if I didn't go ahead and show it now. So let me go ahead and get that queued up, and I'll show it to you guys, because Bruce is he's really cranking out some stuff, and I like that he's learning Basic 09 right now too. So very cool stuff. Now, did he put this in the commercials? No. Did he put it in videos? He put it in videos. I have it here. So let me switch over my screen once again. Let me know if you guys can see this. I have too many things now to deal with my broadcast software. All right, so here we go.
Okay, booting up OS9 now. And then I put in the special key combination and... Oh, crap. Locked up again.
Must be using Nick's version.
There we have it, folks. That is the...
Bill, I thought we had that hidden forever.
Yeah, I thought so too.
So how much disk space did that take?
All right. William, I'm trying to get William in the call right now. William just tried calling. Let me see if I can add him in right now. Add to group call. I might have to add him in manually. This is the challenge with the Skype version, the Linux version of Skype, being able to join some group calls. Yay, Microsoft, right? William, are you there? Yeah, we'll find out if William's there real quick in just a second. But yeah, that's one of the things we wanted to talk about this week. Is William posted something on Facebook where he's just getting into assembly, and showed a little hello world thing and just the beginning of a project. And William, can you hear us, or is William gone again? So yeah, so we'll hopefully get to him in just a minute. But I really we do have some plans to feature an assembly segment where we'll probably do it in pieces and talk more and more about assembly in a more structured format. But in the meantime, if anybody's doing a project, because Richard Cavell had mentioned this once before too, and if somebody's just starting in assembly, it kind of doesn't matter if you've never done it before and it's your first project. You don't have to necessarily be kind of humble and say, well, I've never done it before and all I have is hello world, because there's, like myself, I'm sure there's probably 90% of the CoCo community that doesn't do assembly. So to us novices, it's all interesting, and actually that kind of beginner's perspective, that journey is a kind of an interesting thing. So I would love to show some of that stuff off too. So I'm hoping William will get back on the call and we can show his little project, and we do plan to have more kind of structured assembly talks as time goes on. In the live chat we have Retro Gaming Denmark says, anybody selling CoCo 2 composite boards? Where is that going? Yeah, Ed Snyder does, and I'm trying to add Kieran now. Kieran also on the Linux client. Curse you, Linux. Okay, here he goes. Is he coming in? Okay, so what is Retro saying? Anybody selling CoCo 2 composite mods these days? Zipster has been out of stock for a while. Okay, well, he actually is already aware of Ed Snyder's stuff. So, Karen, are you with us? Okay, William's trying to call in again.
Is there any update on the video call for Discord?
No, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it on mine. So I'm trying to add William to the call. Yeah, every time he calls in, it tells me I'm going to lose him if I do. This is the frustrating part about Skype. All right, William, you copy? I see him on the screen. I see his horse.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, welcome, William. Welcome to the call. We were just mentioning how you're starting your assembly project, and I'm going to be happy to kind of show off a piece of that, which we can hopefully get to in a few minutes here.
Oh, God.
Just put you on the spot, huh? All right. Well, before we do that, let's go over a couple of things here. I just want to go over some of the kind of the views and reviews and feedback from what's happened to us in like the last week or so. So, well, I've posted a couple of Hurricane Irma videos. One of them's got 400 views. That's actually pretty good, right? So, the Oz K-Fest little segment that I recorded with Nick, I posted that as a solo video. That's already gotten 85 views. That's not bad. CoCoTALK 24 from last week, 167 views. Not bad at all. Floppy Talk, episode 23. That thing has taken the world by storm. 195 views. Our episode 22, which, by the way, is our most listened to audio version, is the Nick Morentis Pac-Man 1.1 update. That has gotten a combined, because I've lost some other ones too from the copyright flag, but that's gotten well over 200 views now. So, yeah, we're averaging like 200 views per week on CoCoTALK, which is pretty cool. I'm kind of happy about that, just being so obscure about, about what we're talking about and everything. Some comments on some recent videos. Somebody commented on one of my Dragon Slayer videos saying this game rocks, and it still does. This guy here posted a commercial. This one's actually pretty good. I want to play this. This was a commercial from the death of Radio Shack, right? I'm going to fast forward to the end because
America, the highest quality home electronics.
Let's fast forward to the end because he posted this commercial like this is what Radio Shack would say to us.
That they should feel free to use.
Let me see if you can see
For nearly a
this.
century, we at Radio Shack have proudly served America,
Radio Shack?
providing you with the highest quality home electronics at the best prices. And now, sadly, it's time for us to say goodbye. And so we would like to offer this special farewell message to America. Go f*** yourselves. That's right. Take a 30-pack of batteries and shove them directly up your ass. Who sold your parents that remote-controlled car you got for Christmas in 1993 that you love so damn much? Radio Shack, motherfuckers. That's it. And remember in 1989 when you needed a cable to plug your Nintendo into the TV? Who was there for you? That's right. Radio Shack again, assholes. And now look at you, laughing at our slow, painful death. Well, laugh while you still can, shitheads. Because one day, you too will be obsolete. One day, you too will be left behind in the wake of time's ceaseless onslaught. And when that day comes, know that we'll be standing over your goddamn grave laughing our asses off. So America, from all of us here at Radio Shack, goodbye and go to hell, you filthy animals.
I thought that was funny. Somebody posted that as a comment on one of my videos, and that's actually
I love John Oliver.
Yeah, it's like a year old already, but that one was pretty funny. We got a comment on our Oz K-Fest video. It says, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Nick. Really enjoyed and great to see all the enthusiasm on the Apple side of the house. People that are caught up in their passion, just like us cocoa nuts. So, yeah, that was kind of cool. Once again, this is interesting how these things happen. People run into my videos, and this person here says, my dad did this game here, and this was Brewmaster, like the Tapper clone. So, of course, I never miss an opportunity to say, well, if you ever want to do an interview, let me know. So, that's somebody who's reached out in one of my older YouTube videos. Grant Leedy keeps trying to call in, and we're losing Grant. So, so a couple of comments there on some of our most recent CoCo things on YouTube. Podcast downloads right now, we are at 1,233 downloads, which is pretty cool. I never know what to expect when you do these things, but I think that's a respectable number. And interestingly enough, again, what's our most listened to podcast? Episode 22, the Nick Morentis Pac-Man update. So that's gotten 78 downloads. So we are nowhere near infringing upon CoCoCREW's numbers by any means, but it's kind of cool to be an obscure niche thing and have several dozen people listen to what you do. Something else I did this week is I've updated the CoCo website. So imacoconut.com's gotten a slightly cleaner look to it. And this is where I've put in all my links for color computer stuff. This used to be one page, and now it's multiple pages. So if you want to find out about communities, like on the communities page, for example, I've got Tandy Assembly on here. I've got CoCoFest, the Color Computer group on Facebook, MC10 group on Facebook, CoCoCREW podcast on Facebook, the Dragon group on Facebook, the CoCo mailing list, right? Glenside Computer Club, CoCoCommunity.net, CoCo on Google+, MC10 group, Ron's Garage group on Facebook, and now Ron's OS9 group on Facebook. So just one category of communities, groups, and events you can click on to find out what's going on in the world of CoCo. And if people update me onto new websites, I'll certainly be happy to add those. So like resources, things like CoCopedia and the RadioShackCatalogs.com, things like that. Blogs and projects. If you're working on something, let me know. I'd be happy to add you to the list of what your blogs and projects are. So imacoconut.com is your one-stop shop for all your Tandy computer needs. Something I was hoping to be able to show off this week, but unfortunately the hurricane has screwed with weather deliveries. But I've designed an updated CoCoTALK t-shirt. It's the deluxe t-shirt. So I just want to show you guys that one. I've ordered one. Mark Overholzer ordered one. Mark did not get his yet. Mine was supposed to be here by today. Didn't come in, but I'll show you what it would look like. This was our original CoCoTALK t-shirt, which is just the guy, and he doesn't look bad. But I did a more deluxe one that now matches the podcast logo, because I had not even designed this when we designed the first shirt. So now you've got two choices of CoCoTALK t-shirts, and the deluxe one I really like. So I've ordered a t-shirt and I've ordered a tall coffee mug. So this is like your normal t-shirt. And then I think this thing here is pretty cool too, is you can get like one of these really tall coffee mugs like right here. I've ordered one of these too. And this just looks really cool, right? So you can have your little coffee mug and drink whatever, and it'll say CoCoTALK, right? One other thing, we talked about this last week, and I've actually done it now. I've created a new Color Computer only YouTube channel, and there's a description to that in this live stream right now. Michael Newman says that looks very nice. Thanks, Michael. I have not populated it with too much yet. I do have all the back episodes of CoCoTALK have been populated. I'm going to start to kind of hand select what of my old gaming videos I want to move over here, but not all of them, because as I watch some of my older videos, I find a lot of them to be rather cringeworthy. So I'll probably be redoing a lot of videos, and I've got some good ideas. I've had a few people suggest that they wish there was a version of my video that did not have commentary, which is basically a polite way of saying, shut up, Steve. So I will start recording some videos only without commentary, or probably maybe do two different versions of future videos. So for those people who just want to see the game and don't want to hear a guy blathering, we'll have that. And for those of you who like to listen to me babble, we'll have that. So future videos will be available with and without commentary, and all my new CoCo videos will show up here. This is going to be a channel dedicated to nothing but CoCo. So we got that on the horizon, and there's a link to that on my YouTube page.
I just don't understand who would not want to see you rage quit a game. I don't get it.
Well, apparently I babble, so or so I've been told. Hey, Alexander Wallace is here. Something else we just started too is a Patreon page. I've had a few people suggest and recommend a Patreon thing, so I have created one, and we will find ways to create exclusive content for people who want to support the endeavors of the retro channels and the podcasts and things like that. So that's out there now too. There's a link on all of our websites that will have that. So that's enough shameful plugs for now. That's just kind of catching up on what has happened between last week and this week, as far as who's watched what, who's listened to what, feedback, things like that. Alexander Wallace has joined us from Mexico. Retro Gaming Denmark says, I'm a huge 8-bit text adventure fan. That's good to hear. A few of the text adventures are definitely not preserved. That gives me a good idea. I was thinking about that. I was thinking about creating a category of just text adventures. I think my one experiment with doing Bedlam that's gotten over 200 views has definitely exceeded my expectations. So there's probably an appetite for that. And I think my challenge is right now, my normal YouTube page has got so much hodgepodge of content that I really want to, I thought a CoCo only page just made sense. And so, so look forward to things like that. I want to put music up there, CoCo music. I'll do a section for text adventure games. I'll do a section for games without commentary. Newer and different types of content will come in the future on that page as these ideas come to me. So thanks for that suggestion on Text Adventure pages. Cool stuff. Ron, you want, how about we take a commercial break and we'll switch over to Ron's Garage in a few?
Sure.
Does that work for you?
It'll be
All
good.
right. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to take a look at Ron's Garage. So be right back, people. Go ahead and hit the potty if you got to.
Something new is coming.
Tandy Assembly. Tandy Assembly is about Radio Shack and Tandy computers.
Tandy Assembly is about interacting.
Tandy Assembly is about people.
Tandy Assembly is about fun.
The first gathering of its kind.
Computers of the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
All Radio Shack and Tandy makes and models.
Join us. Don't miss Tandy Assembly.
In Chillicothe, Ohio.
October 7th and 8th.
Whether you're near or far.
Tandy Assembly is for everyone.
Visit our webpage at www.tandyassembly.com.
Tandy Assembly.
Hi, I'm Randy Weaver, and you're watching Original Gamer CoCoSDC.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer CoCoSDC. You know, gameplay. To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the Original Gamer CoCoSDC. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the Original Gamer CoCoSDC sent you. It's amazing how many things have taken a life of their own between Myro and Gameplay Goodness and now Nick Marionettes. It's all these little insider buzzwords and catchphrases that we come up with that almost become larger than life. I never would have thought of any type of catchphrase for my videos, but Gameplay Goodness it is, So now on all of my new CoCo videos, I'm going to lead in and lead out with a little Gameplay Goodness intro and outro clip because it's just kind of cool, Nick Marionettes, man, that's a name that's going to live on in infamy forever. That commercial, we probably need to run that commercial again later on today. Ron Delvaux, I'm going to give you your proper introduction right now, and then we're going to switch over. We'll talk. What do you want to talk about first, Ron's Garage or the OS9 group?
The OS9 group.
All right, so hold on. Well, then I don't have an OS9 group intro, so I'm just going to use the Ron's Garage intro. So
that'll work.
It's I really gotta. I don't have cheap Canadian labor to help me work on this show here, so you get what you pay for, people.
No, our dollar's been going up. We're getting more expensive. So.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for Ron's Garage with a peek into the past featuring the personal computer collection of Ron Delvaux. Take it away, Ron. I love this funky little 70s jazz pseudo-porn music here. Really good stuff. Sorry about that. Couldn't resist. All right, so we've got a brand new group on Facebook, and it is just, Facebook does not have enough content out there right now, so we're doing what we can to help this fledgling startup of a web system. And latest addition to Facebook is the Color Computer Nitrous 9 OS9 group created by Ron Delvaux himself. And how many members are in here? We've got 62 members already, and you just started this thing the other day. The nice thing is you got Dale Puckett to join the game, right? And that's one of the guys who wrote the book.
Yep. I went over to him and I said, I think you ought to see this. It's pretty cool. He didn't really say anything, but he did come in and look around, I think.
Yeah, so that's very cool to have one of the authors of the Nitrous 9 books on here.
Yeah, he's been pretty busy with ham stuff. He's quite active in the ham community still to this day. So,
yep, I've been following him for a long time. Anyway, I was wondering, just as a side note, a little bit. Does anybody know what happened to Wayne Day? He used to be the
original CompuServe guy.
Yeah, CompuServe guy.
Yeah, he was the head of the CoCo and OS9 forums and CompuServe, if I remember. I don't know what happened to him. I haven't heard from him in a long time.
Yeah, I tried looking for him, but to no avail. I'm going through some of my text files that I saved off when I was on Fido-Net and stuff, and there's a lot of names on there that are familiar. I can't place their faces though, because I don't think I've ever seen their faces. Because back then you didn't see faces.
Yeah, right.
You just talk on CB chat on CompuServe.
Right.
Yep.
I just posted a link to the OS9 group in the YouTube chat if anybody's interested in joining the group.
Now, I don't know much about OS9, but I saw a need, so I thought I'd put it together,
right.
And then I started making a couple of admins available. I thought Nick would be cool because he's overnight.
Yeah, he can be the night crew, right? And he's one of the biggest supporters of OS9. So
obviously,
couldn't have a better cheerleader on your team.
He knows a good thing when he sees one.
Yeah. So it would be cool if I'm going to start going through the OS9 Peter Dibble book there, and slowly try and learn again. I went through it before when I was much younger, and it was came to me pretty quick, and it was there's a lot of cobwebs now. So I'm going to go through it again in my spare time that I have spare time of, and start learning. And then I'll have questions, and I'm sure you guys will help answer them. But there's the 3 Banditos.
Yeah. So as you've learned today now, that there was an Easter egg in OS9 as well, which we've uncovered. So Bill Noble, Nick Marionettes, and what was it, Curtis? What was Curtis's name in that one?
I actually didn't see what the name was because my Skype window was over top of it.
We'll have to pull.
So I don't know what it said.
It might have said like Curtis Boiled or something like that. Yeah.
Boiled.
Curtis Boiled. Okay. CoCo3 Easter eggs. Okay, so somebody else did find some. So that was this Easter egg they're probably talking about here.
Yeah, actually, that picture you see there on that link is actually one of the guys in the Easter eggs.
Okay. Very cool.
And there is an Easter egg in OS9 and Nitrous 9 because we modified it, of course. Pre-fill the keyboard buffer when you first start up a shell. You can get some of the author's credits if you hit Control-A on OS9 or Shift-Right arrow on Nitrous 9.
Actually, they replaced that in the repo just to say www.nitrous9.org.
Did they?
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to fix that.
Yeah, I think so.
There really should be like a 3 amigos of the Nitrous 9 founding fathers, you know? When Ron
actually, the three of us have never met together in person, I don't think. Bill's met me, and Wes and I have never met in person, just on the phone.
Well, from what I understand, these 3 pictures were taken individually too. So
yeah, on separate days even, I think.
And we have Ron's digitizer, so we could get the authentic look here.
Yeah.
Get those pictures, Photoshop them together, and get Ron to digitize it. So,
did you happen to see the link I put up there? Has all about their individual pictures, and there's a DSK file or DSK.
Is that
disc.
This one here?
Yeah.
The egg. Okay, the CoCo3 Easter egg.
Yes.
Okay.
Scroll down there.
The egg is hatched. Fact and folklore about the egg. Okay, and there he is. There's Mark Hawkins himself, right?
Yep.
Here's the source image. Okay.
Yes.
That's interesting, right? So you had the 3 different pictures.
Yeah, I thought that was fascinating.
Unused images. Okay.
And CC, the program that runs the digitizer, I have the DS69B, is on that disk, and you fire it up, and you can look at all these individual pictures.
Okay, so here's some more Easter eggs here too. Some Microware Systems is in there. T. Harris and T. Earls. Very cool. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've got a link to CoCopedia on coconut.com too under resources. Very cool stuff. Yeah, and that was also talked about in whose site is CoCopedia?
Yeah.
Who's do you know, Curtis?
Oh,
I think Alan Huffman's involved.
Yeah, he was one of the main contributors and kind of helped push it. I can't remember if he's actually running it or not, though.
Wiki at Coco. Okay.
Wasn't Alan DeCock involved in that too?
I can't remember. There's a bunch of people. I mean, I used to contribute to it way back.
So when you go, when I click on Contact Me, I guess it's opening up an email right now. There's a Facebook group. There's a Google Plus group. CoCopedia project was started on 2004 by user Alan Huffman. It was originally hosted on a different domain, CoCo25. The domain has been created for the CoCo's 25th anniversary back in So did Alan start this?
Yeah, it must have been Alan that started it. I know he was actively involved in it at the beginning, but...
Okay, so it is join the email list, Facebook group, Google Plus, contact me with updates and questions. Let's open, what is the copy email address? Let's just see what that email address is. That is wiki at CoCopedia.com, so we have no idea to know who that is. Okay.
I might have to do a Whois on the domain.
Yeah.
See who's registered with.
No, that's very cool, though. I mean, I like things like Easter eggs. And Easter eggs are like hidden modes in games where you can get into like a cheat mode and things like that. That's always cool stuff.
Yeah. Or just hidden messages in games like Dave Edson of Aardvark was infamous for. He has tons in his games.
Okay.
Do you guys remember the Easter eggs in Windows 95? And
no.
Yeah, there are.
I know there's one in Excel. There's a whole flight simulator or something built in, isn't it? If you've typed in a certain formula.
Is there really?
Yeah, it's like literally megabytes of code that they embedded into Excel just to do this stupid Easter egg.
Wow.
On the old versions of Excel, I don't think it's there anymore, but...
Yeah, so I think that's kind of cool that we now have an OS9 group, and hopefully this will, get more people involved. And Bill Pierce was one of the people who posted a nice long post, and he's done this before in the mailing list too, where he's basically said things like, listen, here's what you need to know about OS9, and here's, things like that. So it was a really good kind of breakdown of, letting people know there is not a one-size-fits-all situation for this operating system. And, depending on what hardware you use and things like that. And we've kind of learned that and discovered that with things we've been talking about on this show as well. There's just, the CoCo didn't have a BIOS. And the CoCo doesn't support plug and play. So your mileage may vary when it comes to what's attached to your system and how OS9 is going to work with that. And what was the other famous phrase about this was, it's user-friendly. It's just real picky about who its friends are. Something like that.
I think John Linville used that one.
Yeah. What else should we point out here on the OS9 page, Ron, that's worth talking about?
Well, I put a couple of resources up for the manuals. And,
okay, I see that.
Yeah, Curtis, did you say something about the versions?
Yeah, there's 3 versions of the OS9 Level 2 manual. The original one is from January of 87. The second one was June of 87, which is, I think, the one down in the archive. And then there was a newer one where they added some missing system calls and a bunch of other pages, too. So even the page numbers change from March of 88. And that you can figure out which one you have if you look at the outside back cover, the cardboard part, not the plastic casing. And it has a little date in the a month and year in the lower left corner, and that'll tell you which version you have.
Cool.
Well, you just reminded me something too, Ron. You had posted the question about different versions of the Color Basic manual, right? And
yes.
And it was pointed out that there's at least one version of this manual that only has 13 chapters, like it was kind of rushed to market, right? And that got me thinking. I didn't bother to look to see what mine had because I've got a few. But when I saw a new one posted on eBay, a guy was selling the Color Basic manual and another Programming in Basic manual. I messaged the guy and I said, well, how many chapters are in that book? And he got back to me and says, well, there's 13 chapters and it's 379 pages or whatever it was. And it was a buy it now one. So I just said, cool, I want it. And I hit buy it now. So I've got one of the 13 chapter versions of that book coming from eBay. So yeah, interesting. That's
take pictures.
Yeah.
Now, Dwayne Downing, who Steve has met virtually a few times there, and a friend of mine from up here, and we bought our CoCos like within a month or two of each other. He actually had one of the last of the 13 chapter manuals come with his. And then when I got mine, which is literally twice as thick and has all the little bits on doing assembly language graphics at the end and some of the more technical details. But there was an article in the Tier City Microcomputer News magazine, which is a little freebie they gave out, that actually mentioned that they finally got the real manual finished, I think, in December of 1980, and then they finally got the full version out to everybody. But people that had bought their CoCos before that, or ones that were put in boxes before that, got the older, smaller version of the manual.
And so were those people updated to a newer version?
Nope.
You're stuck.
I think
like
maybe
Chuck.
if you went and asked for it, if you knew there was a difference, but most people didn't.
Wow.
Huh.
Well, I hope I can be as prolific in the future with all these things that I come up with, but I doubt if I will be able to.
Well, the nice thing,
pretty interesting, but
yeah, the nice thing about it being a group is that you have more than one person to contribute to it, so it's kind of cool. Which now we will go over and we will look at the Ron's Garage group, right? So you mentioned you put a couple of videos up here.
There's 4 videos, and they're a little probably boring and shaky because when I was a sign painter, I used to paint signs, and I have some nerve damage in my thumb, and it shakes now. So I got this jittery thing going on now and then, and apologize in the future.
Hey,
have to get you a tripod.
Yeah, really. Well, I just had a little handheld cheapo point and shoot. That's what I used for. So if you start with video 1.
Okay. Well, I'm just doing the one that's on the top of the page right now.
Yeah, no, don't do that one.
Okay. Let me see which one's which right now. So that's video 4 last. Video 3.
Yeah. 3, 2.
Video 1 of 4. All right.
Okay. They're not real long. They're just...
Okay. So let's make it big. Turn on the sound. All right, here we go. This is video 1.
Yeah.
Wait a second. Let's see if my software is not showing this, I don't think. So give me 2 seconds to switch over my scene. You guys can see it, but nobody else can. Okay, now it's on the broadcast. Here we go. Let's try this again.
Okay, let's see if I can do this.
Okay, that's your CoCoSDC.
Yeah, controller's in 4.
3.
I switched it to 3, and then reset it. And I was going to copy a file from drive 1 to the SDC.
No,
And
1.
Basically, what this comes down to is it doesn't work.
You're trying to copy from the SDC to a real floppy?
It won't work. Yeah, to drive 2. I turned off drive 1, and I even turned off drive 2 and tried copying to either one, and it didn't work.
Okay.
And I show that.
Nothing.
Well, before I even did this video, I
3
tested the controller with the floppies.
Drive 1, nothing.
On the slot 4, and it worked fine. So there's showing drive 1 is off, and it will not read drive 1.
Interesting.
So if you go to the next video, and we're a different controller, and it does the same thing. So you can skip that and go to 3.
Okay, video 3.
Yeah. Video 3 is completely different Color Computer 2 system.
Okay.
And I did the same thing, and guess what? Don't work. Drive 0 off, drive 1 off, and I do directories, and it will not read the
That's off.
And then the next, if you go to the next video, that's just on CoCo 3, and it shows that it works. Doing the same exact thing.
Okay, they're both off.
Okay, I'm trying to add William back to the call.
Something in the drive.
And here's the sheet one. Oh, God.
Okay, so what's the new one now that has the CoCo 3 on it?
Yeah, the last one.
That's number 4?
Yep. That one's CoCo 3, and I have the correct MPI on it, and it works, as you can see in the video.
Okay. I'm on the CoCo 3 now. I hit
drive 0,
load,
drive
off.
1 off.
on 0, off on
Yep.
1. I'm hitting a directory on drive 1. It's working.
It worked.
Alright, now I do a directory on 1. It's working. So why does it work on the 3 and not the 2 and not the 1?
Interesting.
Weird, huh?
So is my SDC broke, or does somebody else have the same setup and nobody's done it yet? What?
My recommendation would be to email Darren Atkinson.
Okay.
And tell him what's.
Darren.
Yes, he's the one that created the CoCoSDC.
And he maintains the software upgrades for it.
Are
you? All right, so maybe you guys, any of you guys have a 1 or a 2 you can hook up to it and try it? Anybody out there?
I do. I just haven't had time to do anything with my CoCos the last couple months. So,
well, I'd sure like to know if mine's bad or not, and that'd probably be one way to find out. If somebody else does it and theirs is, yeah, mine's fine. I don't know what's wrong with you.
The CoCoSDC doesn't depend upon extended basic, does it?
Oh yeah, all disk controllers do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to add William back to the call. Jim Gary's with us in the live chat too. Hey Jim. Jim, we'd love to have you join us on Skype at some point in time.
But yeah, as far as that issue, that sounds more like it's more likely in SDC-DOS itself. So, he would have to go through it because it knows which computer that you're booting up on, so it's got code specific for the CoCo 1 and 2s and 3s for the DriveWire support. So therefore, maybe there's just something slightly off for the 1 and 2 mods.
Yeah, I was all excited. I fired up my CoCo 1, and put the SDC in there, and I put a floppy in. I was going to copy the 32K Speak program from floppy over into the SDC, and I tried it, and I thought, well, what is going on? It's just not working. So I stopped. I went into the other computer, tried that. It didn't work, and I'm going, what am I missing?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried the CoCoSDC and a CoCo 1. It works fine, obviously, but I haven't actually hooked up on my multipack to it because I normally have my multipack hooked up to my CoCo 3, so I haven't tried that particular scenario.
Yeah, so I've loaded programs into the CoCo 1. They work fine, and anything pertaining to the SDC is fine, except excluding it and trying to work around it, or adding to it. Now, that's kind of an important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, William keeps trying to call in, and I can't add him to the call. And I think it's because he's doing I don't know if he's doing the Skype client or the Skype browser client. But yeah, I can't add you in the call, William. And I know we've had you on here before, and I'm having a major issue getting you on this call. You gotta love Skype sometimes, right? All right. Well, that was kind of cool, though. So yeah, Darren has been responding to posts on the mailing list, and that's where the 1.5 update came from, when somebody pointed out the fact that the drive motors were not being turned off, and they also noticed that he mentioned that there's a timing delay when you're doing like a disk ini, and you had to like run a double speed poke to get it to finish before this timeout occurred, and that was kind of a proof of concept that. I forgot exactly what it was, but I was trying to keep up with that thread. But yeah, Darren Atkins is definitely on top of any requests to go to the mailing list. I don't think he does Facebook. So we should probably get that message out to him and let him know. I know he's still working on something to fix to fully fix the drive motor thing. So
all right, you guys got to help me out now. How do you get to the mailing list, or what is it, or
I will send you a link to that. It's on amacoconut.com. How you get there? Once you go to the malt data, whatever it's called, and you submit your email address, you kind of, I don't know. I guess they have to approve you somehow, and then you start getting emails from them, and you respond to the emails, and it's a thread. What I've done is I've created a rule where all of my mailing list stuff goes into a folder, and so I just click on mailing list. It's just I have Gmail, and I use a whatever they call that, a filter. So all my mailing list stuff goes in a folder. I click on that and I just read them. And most of the time, everything stays threaded. Sometimes the threads break and you have multiple versions of a message. But it's pretty good to follow things, especially when the thread doesn't break. You can kind of follow the history of the conversation pretty easily.
Yeah, it's multidmedia.com, and it's actually ran by Dennis Bathory Kitts. You may remember him from the days of Lower Kit, etc.
Yeah, and he's what is he? A conductor of some kind?
Yeah, he's a composer.
Yeah, composer. Awesome guy.
Yeah.
He was kind of a crazy guy, wasn't he?
Yes. Have you ever seen his ambient room music thing that he actually brought it to one of the CoCo Fests and played it there? And it's pretty bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would be fun to hang out with.
It'd be fun to have him as an interview, actually, because he's done hardware and software. He's a composer of operas and all kinds of stuff. He's directly related to the infamous Bathory, Countess Bathory, that supposedly bathed in blood, etc.
Ah, neat.
Descendant.
All right. Norlander says he's got to go. Grant, do you have a newbie question of the week for us?
Yes, I do.
Well, hold on to it. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll come back with Grant's newbie question of the week. I'm assuming you're done, Ron. Sorry if I cut you short.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. No, you didn't.
All right. We're gonna run a quick commercial, and then we'll come back and we'll hear the newbie question of the week. So don't go anywhere, folks.
What's going on, everybody? The original gamer CoCoSDC here, and I want to talk to you about I'mACoconut.com. If you love the color computer like I love the color computer, then you got to visit I'mACoconut.com, your one-stop shop for all of your Tandy Color Computer links needs. There you'll find links to blogs and podcasts and project sites and emulators and downloads and groups and communities. If you love the color computer, head on over to I'mACoconut.com. That's IMACoconut.com. Tell them the original gamer CoCoSDC sent you. CoCo forever, people.
Hi, this is John Robbs. I'm at the CoCo Fest here with Steve Strobridge, the original gamer, and we're having a great time geeking out on 30-year-old hardware. Having fun.
Sorry, I had to help somebody and my laptop went to sleep.
Hey, well, we got you. We got you back. All right, welcome. Yeah, I was having a hard time adding you to that Skype call. We got you on. So, William, welcome to CoCoTALK. You're here.
Thanks. Good to be here, I guess.
I've never heard a more enthused guest in my life, so that's awesome. Good. We were getting ready to jump into the newbie question of the week, but since we have you here and we haven't had you on the show before, you want to just tell us a little bit about your history with the color computer from maybe the old days to what you're doing now? Hello. Can you hear us?
Sure. Hopefully you can still hear me. I'm getting some stutter on my end.
Ah.
Yes, we can still hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, I had when I was about 5, a relative got my parents into the color computer, and we ended up getting our own. I don't remember if it was around Christmas time or not, but that was my introduction to the color computer, and I went through all the manuals. We were subscribed to Rainbow, and I just sat there and programmed on BASIC on it, and it just kind of got me into computers as a larger hobby. Sometime around the 90s, I ended up getting a PC instead, so I could get online and call BBSs rather. We didn't exactly have internet yet just then, but Anyway, I just kind of always wanted to learn how to do machine language stuff on it because, I read so many articles on Rainbow and even the Radio Shack manuals, and I knew there was so much more I could do with it. But we weren't going to spring for an EDT ASM cartridge or anything like that, so I pretty much, didn't have any options. And kind of not a lot going on in my life right now, work-wise, and I just kind of want something to, keep me occupied, and I got into the CoCo again.
Now, are you using a real one, or are you running an emulator?
I have my original CoCo 2. It still works, and I have a what was that name? Cloud9. I bought a Cloud9 CoCo 3 sometime around 2010, but they're packed in boxes, so I don't have room. So I've been mainly using Mess on Linux.
Okay, yeah, and Mess gets the job done, or MAME, Mess, whatever you want to call it now.
MAME. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, and you had posted something on Facebook where you did a little bit of a hello world thing, and I thought that was pretty cool. And if you want, I can go ahead and just pull up that video and show that off real quick. I think I have that saved here. Let me see if I can find it. There we go. I have been learning assembly for the past few weeks straight. Here we go. Here's your thing. I'll go ahead and pull that up. Now, I thought that was interesting. Now, can you still hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the things that I was mentioning before, and I think you were kind of in and out of the call, but I like the fact that you're starting from scratch, and I know I've mentioned this to a few people. Would you like to share your project, and would you like to come on and talk to us about it, or you want me to post a link to your project site? And some people are very modest and very humble, and they say things like, well, I haven't been doing it that long, and I don't have a lot of experience, or what I'm doing is not that big, or not that important, or not that whatever. But I think that, and I'm not alone, but I probably speak for, I'm going to guess and say the 80% or more of people who like the color computer but never learned assembly. So for somebody like you, even though it's your first time and you're doing it, you're starting a journey that a lot of us haven't started yet. So to see it from, I think we can relate to you more than having somebody who's fluent in it try to explain it to us, because their knowledge base is so much larger. So I kind of like the fact that you're starting a journey, and I think it'd be interesting if you want to share some more of these videos with us, or talk to us. I don't want to put you on the spot today, but if in the future, if you want to come on and just talk about what you're working on and what you've learned and what you've done, or just give me a link and something to show, I think it would be really interesting for other people to want to watch as well. So
yeah, sorry. Pretty much everything that I've done so far is up on my GitHub. There's a link on, I think, on that video, actually.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up. This is from Facebook right now. And we'll make this full screen. And, okay, looks like you're running in Linux right now, right?
Yes.
That's definitely not OS9, is it?
No,
Maybe on
that's
the Nano.
just a terminal. And I have a make file set up. Oh, sorry, I'll let you go.
Yeah, there we go. There you go. Here's your emulator. You can even hear the floppies loading. Okay, sound and color. Hello world. There you go. This program is meant to simulate text printed to a TTY. Hello world. That's really cool. And you even hear the little clicking sounds on there. So, and it just keeps running, right?
It will keep speeding up, and also it'll start scrolling.
Ah.
Scrolling's the last thing I implemented on it. I had to do memcopy on the screen memory.
Now, for the sound and stuff, are you directly talking to the chips, or are you going through the basic ROM calls, or?
I tried to do the DAC directly, but I'm not smart enough to deal with that yet, so I just cheated and found a way to call sound.
Okay.
There we go. Yeah, it's running faster now. That's neat. That's neat. And right now, this is more than I would know how to do, and I think a lot of people would too. So even something as simple as this is still interesting to somebody who's interested in starting this journey and learning about it a little bit.
Scrolling the screen doesn't seem like much, but when you actually have to manipulate the video memory to do it, it's not quite as simple as it looks.
But it's definitely, I can still remember the first time I ever got that to work on a graphics screen. It was the very first machine language routine I ever wrote, was to scroll. And it was such a rush to see it running as quick as it did compared to trying to do it in BASIC.
Yeah, it keeps getting faster and faster. So what did you put like delay loops in here, and you just started decreasing the delay with each new cycle?
Yeah, I have a subroutine that I copied off of one of the assembly manuals. I can't remember which author it is. It's commented in the source code, but it's basically you can vary how long it stays in the timing loop.
Okay.
When you call it.
Yeah, going a lot faster now. Jim Gary
it's
says
the type of silly thing I used to write in BASIC, when I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
But, as I learn more things, I just keep adding them to this program so I can see all the concepts in action.
Yeah, that's neat. It's going a lot faster. I actually like that sound. That's a neat sound. There you go. It's like the motorcycle engine.
Steve, it's Glenn here.
Hey, Glenn.
I just wanted to say that I remember when I started machine language too, the first thing I was doing was text stuff similar to this.
Yeah.
I remember there was a little routine in the William Borden Jr.'s book on doing a bubble sort.
Okay.
It would sort the screen, and you just see the text flying around the screen. It's like, wow. The assembly language is awesome.
That was the first machine code I ran. It was in the Radio Shack Learning Assembly book.
Yeah.
And the first thing I tried to play with was the bubble sort routine. And that was so cool seeing the text move across the screen like that.
Yeah, that was a neat
now, will
start.
there be a limit to this? How fast?
Yeah, it'll eventually stop and return to basic.
Where's that noise coming from? Wow, that thing's hauling butt now. Wow. That's neat. Yeah. That's when I get started, I'm going to start with the William Borden book and the Ed Tasman cartridge.
I think it's the Borden book that had the bubble sort. It was the very first example.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hey,
that's cool.
speaking of Bill Borden,
It was a great
I
book.
went to lunch with him a couple times. He's a nice guy.
Cool.
He lives out here in Phoenix.
The next thing I'm working on is
cool,
talking
Ron.
to the disk drive. And I found a couple of ways. I kind of got in an argument with someone else on there about whether or not it's a good idea to do it. But I found this neat little article on page 71 of the July 83 Rainbow that shows you how to do more than just call diskcon. And you basically can call into the basic ROM and execute the file IO statements from assembly. What's neat about that, though, is that the disk EDTA-ASM cartridge actually, not the floppy, has a DOS demo on there, which they print full source code for in the manual that does the exact same thing. And I'm wondering if that would really... I don't have a CoCoSDC, unfortunately, but I do plan on at least testing it with HDB-DOS on DriveWire. It's actually a worthwhile thing. Either way, I'm going to experiment with it regardless, because really, if I don't have to do the tracks and sectors manually, I would rather not, for general use.
Yeah, just call the ROM routines and let it worry about directories and granule tables and all that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, basically one of the things I want to add to this little hello world thing, I want it to print source code from disk at one point. So, just, like I said, I'm just keep adding to it and seeing, okay, well, what can I do next? That, I kind of do best when I can actually see stuff working and how it actually works compared to what I expected it to do,
Yeah, it's one of the ironies. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I've programmed in C and Perl and Python and stuff for quite a long time. So it's not like this is completely an alien concept to me. But the working at such a low level is something I've never done, and it definitely requires a little bit of a different way of going about your thinking.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the ironies of OS9 Nitrous 9 is that while the operating system itself is a lot more complicated, it does have all these APIs, or system calls as they called them back then, built in for this kind of stuff, and they're all generically made that way. So if you're writing stuff like disk IO or even screen I/O and stuff. I mean, all that stuff's built in, and your assembly language becomes much simpler because you just set a couple of pointers and you say, go do this for me. A lot of that stuff's built in.
I'm really excited about OS9. I mean, it's amazing what OS9 does. Hey, you were a microware guy, right?
Nope.
I was reading the 6809 journal last night, and I saw this product called RT68. Is that like the predecessor to OS9?
Yes, that was a 6800.
It ran on the 6800.
Yeah, I never was a microware, but yeah, I'm aware of RT68. That was Ken Kaplan's first product before OS9 6809 came out.
The ad I read for it in the magazine said it could do like 16 simultaneous processes.
Yeah, I think that was right. I didn't really run it myself, but I remember reading about it and then Ken talking about it a few times at Rainbow Fest. So,
I mean, I'm going to be reading through a lot of these magazines. I mean, I was just blown away. I used to read them as a kid, but I never really got this deep before. And I mean, just even this disk routine thing that I pulled out of the Rainbow just surprised me. I mean, there's just so much really good information in there that I haven't even seen online. I mean, aside from looking at the archive of the magazines, rather.
Yeah, I'm hoping someday somebody will actually digitize all the color computer news. I've only got the last 6 months or so worth of it, but it was the most technical of the CoCo magazines. So they have a lot of the low-level stuff in there, but unfortunately, it's a much rarer magazine too. So. And it actually came up. It started before Rainbow. I think it beat it by a couple months, but they only published it I think until was it September of '83 or something like that, and then they folded.
Interesting. But yeah, I think it's a cool little project, and I'll put a link to it on my projects page of I'mACoconut.com. And if you ever want to come back on in the future and talk more about your discoveries as you've learned new things, or if you just post new videos, I'll be happy to show those videos as well. But I think it's a cool project. It's a really cool subject that we are going to get into more as time goes on.
Well, it's kind of fascinating for me. I mean, it's by today's standards, it's an extremely simple machine, but there's a lot you can learn about it. There's a lot more depth than I was expecting at first.
Very, very
Curtis.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that.
This is the sort of crazy stuff I do for fun.
Curtis, at one time you said that 32K Speak program, you use that in other programs. How would you go about stealing code from like a program like that?
It wasn't stealing code. 32K Speak, the 16K version I think was just mainly the Speak, but 32K Speak would load itself into higher memory, and then you were still left like 16K for a basic program. And there was an official way, and I'd have to find some source to find out how to do it again, or find the manual. But there was an official way to actually call those routines from basic. So you just send it a text string and say, hello, Ron, and you would just tell it to go speak. Because I actually wrote a couple basic programs that actually did use it.
That's cool.
Is this the one that it's a software-based speech synthesizer? Yeah. I remember that as a kid. I remember doing that too in BASIC, where I was able to get it to speak inside BASIC programs. I don't remember what I did to make it work, but I remember doing that.
Yeah, and there's pokes you could do to change the speed of the voice too, so you can get it. Like I know Ron used the default, which is kind of a bassy, low-end thing. And if you sped it up, it sounded a little bit better. But and double speed poke on a CoCo 3, obviously, it sounds better too. So
cool stuff. Cool stuff. Grant, you ready for your newbie question of the week? Sorry about that. We got sidetracked a little bit.
No, we're good.
All right. We're going to run one more commercial, then we'll be back with Grant's newbie question of the week. We'll be right back, people.
Good.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer CoCoSDC here, and if you're a fan of vintage computing and retro gaming, then you're going to love our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. There you will find custom designs by Instagram artist Joel M. Adams. You can get I'm a Coconut, CoCoTALK, and other cool video game images on a t-shirt, coffee mug, or mouse pad. So if you love retro, then head on over to the retro swag shop at 8bit256.com today. Tell them the Original Gamer CoCoSDC sent you.
Hi, my name is Brendan Donahue, and you're watching the Original Gamer CoCoSDC.
All right. Well, we're going to do the proper introduction here for Grant right now. And we got to do this right. This is a professional show here, folks, even though it does not have cheap Canadian labor. We're going to do this right. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for Newbie Talk with the Newbie Question of the Week with Grant Leedy? Well, if you're not ready, too bad, because here it comes. All right. How do you like that?
That was pretty cool.
All right, Grant Leedy, how are you today, sir?
I am doing very good, thank you.
Thanks for being here with us.
So the question of the week that I have was something that you brought up last week about the Cocoa Pi.
Okay.
It's another alternative to the real hardware or to the emulators. So the question is, what is the Cocoa Pi and how does it actually work?
Okay. And do you want me to actually do a show and tell rather than just try to answer the question?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, what I will warn you guys is that I want to do this properly when I have Ron Klein available because I know enough to be dangerous, but I'll show you what I can show you. And so the first thing I'll try to show, if you can see the camera, is that this is the actual Raspberry Pi system. And this is a Raspberry Pi 3, which I have in a clear kind of acrylic case or something like that. So it runs on a Raspberry Pi 3. So if you're familiar with the Raspberry Pi and you're familiar with the project is called RetroPie, it is similar to that. The only difference is that so Ron Klein is kind of the guy who has made this little project right now. And one of the things that you can see here is that I've actually got it booted up. And again, like I say, I know enough to be dangerous because the only time I went through this was when Ron was kind of walking me through it, and I don't remember everything. But I am in HDB-DOS. Okay, so I think I actually have to type in DOS. Okay, so yeah, I had actually mounted Nitrous 9 in here. So okay, so I've actually booted up into Nitrous 9 on one of these images that he has created. I don't remember how to get out of here, so is it just escape? Yeah, okay, so I just hit escape to get out. So here's what Cocoa Pi looks like when you boot up. It's menu driven. So it's running in Raspberry Pi, it's running the Raspbian operating system, but what he didn't do is he didn't put the GUI on here. So we're booted up into kind of like a text menu. And there's different options, and this is, I think, his kind of stock option here right now. But so he's got HDB-DOS with DriveWire, RGB-DOS with a hard drive, Nitrous 9, YA-DOS. There's a CoCo 3, there's a CoCo 2 you could run. He's even got a version of XROAR in here. But for example, if I hit number 5 to load up a CoCo 2 with HDB-DOS, and I just hit OK, I'm basically booting into a CoCo 2. Now, one of the things that he has also done with this, and I'll try to switch over to my other screen to see if I can explain this a little bit better, because most of these things I know enough to be dangerous on. But he's got DriveWire running in here. So I need to switch over to my full screen doohickey here. Now, there is a DriveWire server that's running on the RetroPie. And if I bring up DriveWire on my computer, and what is it, the DriveWire UI, right? DW4 UI. Okay, let me see if I can pull this up without crashing my system right now. One of the things that Ron showed me that I could do is you could actually use the DriveWire server, the DriveWire software on your PC, and I've got it connected to the DriveWire on the actual Raspberry Pi. So right now in DriveWire, Drive 0 is running a Nitrous 9 disk, and then Drive 1 is running DK Remix. And I could actually reassign or remount these drives using my computer, and the minute I do that, they're going to show up in DriveWire on that machine. So for example, right now, this Donkey Kong Remix, that's in Drive 1. If I was to switch back to the CoCo 3, and of course now I need to exit out of here, and I need to go back to 1 and run a CoCo 3. So if I press 1 for CoCo 3, and I boot up the CoCo 3, if I type in drive space 1 and hit enter, and then type in dir, did I do drive 1? I did. There's something not right here. So something's a little bit off with my DriveWire commands. if I type in dir 0, what disk am I going to look at? dir 0. That looks like OS9. That looks like OS9. So somehow the DK Remix disk is not. If I go to insert disk right now, let me see if I can find it. DriveWire 4. Yeah. So yeah, I wasn't completely prepared to kind of show this off, but there is a way to do this to where you could manage DriveWire from your PC and manage what drives are inserted in here. Let me just try this now. If I hit Tab and I go to my arrow keys. Okay. Yeah, I'm having, okay, select this. Okay, my keys are off too. So file manager, there's a file manager. There's different things that he's added to this that, again, I'm not fully prepared for. But if I go to file manager and I wanted to load a cassette, there's different ways you can do this, and of course I'm not doing it justice right now. But what is CoCoPie? It is a Raspberry Pi that's set up to run MAME. MAME is the primary emulator to run color computer stuff. And what Ron Klein has done is he's come up with a bunch of different kind of out-of-the-box configurations. And I don't remember what I did to make this not work right. And when I had it working before, because Ron was helping me. So, but it is menu-driven, and it should be fairly straightforward to do this. So like here's a CoCo, again, if I go back to my CoCo 2, this will bring up the emulator. The thing I don't remember how to do though is how do I get to the disk images, you know? And so this is where if I type in dir 0, I'm probably still going to see Nitrous 9. When I'm not seeing, what I'm not seeing though is that I'm not seeing the Donkey Kong Remix disk, and I'm not sure why, and I'm not mentally capable to tell you why. But basically anything you could theoretically do in MAME, you should be able to do in this. And so I should be able to switch to like my file manager and load up a different, oh crap, see, I don't know what's going on with my keyboard and mouse right now either. There's weird stuff going on here. So anyways, maybe I've answered your question a little bit, but I definitely was not prepared to do a full demonstration on this because I haven't worked it all out in my head. But it's definitely a neat little project, and I do want to show this project off once I get Ron Klein on the hook here to do that. But there's an image you can download that you can then burn onto an SD card to boot into this.
And what hardware do you need to have to do this?
You need a Raspberry Pi 3. Any over-the-counter Raspberry Pi 3, and those things average about $35. You need a micro SD card, probably about 8 gigs in size, maybe a little bit bigger. And then you need something to provide power to the Raspberry Pi 3. It gets its power over USB. It basically, you can use a cell phone charger to power it up, or just any mini micro USB cable. You have to run a program that burns the image onto the SD card from your PC. And once you've done that, it will boot up into the operating system. The one thing that makes this a little bit, I wouldn't say complicated, but just an extra step, and this is similar to what Glen had to do with his Pac-Man. Glen did not circulate the ROMs with the software, because that's kind of one of the agreements of MAME. So you have to basically, when you boot up the CoCoPie, the ROMs are not in it. But the neat thing about what Ron Klein did is if you get the CoCoPie on your Wi-Fi, or if you get it on your home network, you can browse to it. It's got an SMB share, and you can see it like a shared folder, and then you can access those ROMs directories and just drag all the ROMs into it. So you need like your CoCo1 ROM, your CoCo, any ROM you would need to put into the MAME ROMs directory, you need to put into this one as well. And then once you do that, it does have a lot of software already installed on it as far as disk images and cartridge images. So there is a lot of preloaded software, but it's just not circulated with the CoCo 1, 2, and 3 ROM images that contain the Microsoft Basic and things like that.
Are there any disadvantages to this over the real hardware?
The disadvantage? Well, you can't plug anything into it. You know, you can't plug in a CoCoSDC, you can't plug in a regular Tandy joystick or anything else, but everything is emulated. You can plug in like an Xbox controller and use that as your joystick. You can plug in it has Bluetooth. You could pair a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse to it. You could pair a Bluetooth joystick to it. So the disadvantage is that you can't plug in any real CoCo hardware to it. But the benefit is it'll run software. and it'll run a CoCo 3. So if you wanted to have a CoCo 3 and you couldn't afford a real CoCo 3, you could put together this system for well under $100 and basically have a portable emulator.
How's its performance versus the FPGA projects?
I don't have an FPGA, so I couldn't tell you. I mean, I ran a few things with Ron. It should perform as good as a standard CoCo 1, 2, or 3 does. It's not going to perform any faster than that because the emulators aren't designed to do that.
I'm not a hardware guy, but would it be possible to make like a custom hardware that basically looks like a multi-pack, but it talks to an emulator over a network or something? Would that be fast enough to really, move stuff over the bus into like a emulated machine and actually plug real hardware into it?
Would it be possible to build a multi-pack style CoCo that accepts the real hardware?
Yeah, like basically, just like some sort of networked microcontroller thing that has like a bus on it to plug cards into, and then have that talk to an emulator somehow, and make the devices, visible to. I don't know. I'm just a thought.
So you're basically talking about like a hardware to emulation bridge.
Yeah,
you can plug real hardware in and have the emulator see it.
Theoretically,
yeah. I mean, it's not. It's not been implemented as far as I know, but it's just an idea that popped in my head as you were talking about plugging hardware into it.
Theoretically, you can make something that looked like the CoCo's hardware bus that could be added to the Pi. I don't know how much I/O is available, but yeah, you could then then plug actual hardware into it and then have the MAME interface with it. Yeah. By the way, we have a question on the live chat on YouTube from Nick Marientis.
Marionette.
The OS9 guru. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it says something about what happens when there's an update to MAME.
Yeah, well, I would imagine whatever the normal process is in Linux to do that. I don't know if it's an apt-get or something like that to get it. I don't know if maybe is David Ladd still here? David, could you answer that question?
You have to build it yourself.
Oh, you have to build it yourself. So I think basically Ron is maintaining this, and so either you have to build it yourself or maybe wait for the next image to be re-released and just reburn the latest image. And I guess then the downside becomes, are you storing personal data on your flash card? Then you maybe need to offload that. The nice thing about this, though, is that it does get on your home network very easily. So it's, in order to copy information in and out of the Raspberry Pi through a normal Samba share, it shows up like a normal Windows PC on your LAN. You can access all the various shares that are on there. So if you had like disk images that you were storing on that, I guess you could pull them off to one of your home computers, re-image your SD card, and then just stick them back on there. Not
Steve,
super
I remember
elegant.
talking to Ron about that earlier, and I remember him saying something about he'll be able to just update the MAME itself, and you won't have to reformat, or copy all your stuff and then format and copy it back.
Okay.
But I haven't talked to him about it specifically in a while, but I remember him, wanting it to be a little simpler for the users.
Yeah, well,
while
that's
doing upgrades.
Okay, and that's why I really want to. I do want to have a formal presentation on this when I can get Ron Klein booked to do it. His schedule has been hectic. It is a neat project, and I didn't do it any justice.
Now, do you have that little case for it as well?
I do have the 3D printed case that I got from Glen Hewlett. I'll make my camera big here for just a second. I got this case from CoCoFest. I'm not using the case because I found that trying to get things in and out of here, it was just a little bit, it made me nervous because the RetroPie was not staying still and things like that. And it wasn't completely easy to get things in and out. So I think this is just going to be cooler to keep the CoCo case as a CoCo case. So what I ended up doing for my Raspberry Pi is I just got a clear acrylic case to put it in, and it's just a heck of a lot easier to get to the USB ports on it and everything else, and the power ports. So for me, this just was the accessibility was better this way, and I didn't want to break the Pi and I didn't want to break the case, so I like that case too much.
This just means you need to buy another Pi 3 to stick in that case.
Yeah. Now what I do have is I do have the USB to CoCo joystick adapter, so I do have the ability to run a real CoCo joystick on my Raspberry Pi, And that's something that the real Tandy Corporation is working on too. So Tandy Computer Corporation, which is Darren Grant in the UK, they are working on a CoCo to USB adapter, CoCo joystick to USB adapter. So that will be an official Tandy product that will hopefully be available in the near future, where you can plug in real CoCo joysticks to a PC or a Raspberry Pi or anything else.
Cool.
Yeah. It's definitely a neat project, and it's something. It's got me wanting to learn more about Linux. Okay, so Nick Marionettes is saying, how long does it take from power on till the CoCo 3 and RS Basic prompt appears? Okay, so let's do that right now. So Nick, can you see the screen? Okay, so right now the Raspberry Pi is not on, so I'm going to unplug it and plug it back in. So I'm looking at my clock right now. Let me make my timer bigger so I can get a stopwatch out of this. All right, now I'm showing 3:34. So I'm going to plug this. Okay, 3:34 in 4 seconds. Six seconds so far. 10 seconds. 20 seconds. Okay, it took 20 seconds to boot to the menu. And then now from the time I go to the menu to loading up a CoCo, so I'm at 3:34 and 33. Of course now, okay. So because it took me longer to hit the right key, that took about 2 or 3 seconds. So let's just say about 30 seconds. From the time you plug it in cold boot to being in a CoCo, it's about 30 seconds.
Now, can you set it up to default? Like if you say wanted to just run a CoCo 3, can you set it up so it just automatically boots into it without the menu? Or
probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because it's just a script that comes up there.
Yeah, these are literally just scripts that you run. So yeah, and so right now what his script is doing is pulling up the menu file, which is literally a text file, and with like some ANSI codes to make it colorful. And
Steve,
then
can you just press 8 there? Just want to see toggle menu type. Maybe have something to do with that. I'm not sure.
Okay, now you've got a vertical menu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't played with it myself for a little while, so I thought maybe it was something they changed on there.
Ooh, Tandy Assembly 2017 edition.
Yes.
Cool.
When's that happening?
Oh yeah, October 2nd and 3rd. We'll get to Tandy Assembly. Yeah, yeah. So there's different menus. So there's the kind of command prompt menu, and then there's the kind of up and down text GUI menu. There's a way to start and restart your DriveWire, adjust volume, run Raspberry Pi config. There's a way to get your Raspberry Pi onto your Wi-Fi, things like that.
I think he also has the LW tools already installed on here. You could do assembly language and then assemble it here too. Do some testing. I'm pretty sure Ron was going to include that if he didn't already. Maybe just type LWSM just to see. I think that was okay. Maybe -8 for help or something. Yeah.
Nick is asking, should it be able to run Popstar Pilot? And I would say yes, it should. But my problem is getting a Popstar Pilot disk into it. So I'll try it real quick. I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to bring up my DriveWire. There's something in DriveWire, and I think I know what it is. So it's DW4 UI. And this is why I wish I had Ron here. There's something in DriveWire where there's something you have to ordinarily turn off to work on a real CoCo that you have to turn on this one, and I forgot what it was. I think it was called the HDB-DOS emulation or something like that. So let me try this real quick. I'm going to go
Number 12 there said started. Is it already started? I guess it is. You were using Nitrous 09 before.
Back to tool.
How do I... David, you still there?
Second one down.
HDB... Yeah. Okay. So I just turned on HDB-DOS translations. That's what was missing. Okay. So what Nick Marentis is asking is, could I load Popstar Pilot on this right now? So I'm going to try to insert a disk on here. Now, I can either browse to content that lives on the actual DriveWire, or excuse me, on... so like right now, if I go to /home/pi. This is all searching for folders on the Raspberry Pi. I'm pretty sure that he doesn't have Popstar Pilot distributed on here, but what I could do is I could then do this, and I could browse, I guess, to my computer. And now that's what I'm not even sure how to do. Look in /home.
You can't.
Oh,
because
okay.
the server is running on the Raspberry Pi, and thus it does not have access to
there's
computer's
a way.
resources.
There is actually a way.
Yeah,
and
you can copy the file from your machine to the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah,
Or if you have Samba running.
There is another way to do it, but that's fine. So what I'll do in the meantime is I will find Nick's Popstar disk and I'll copy it over to the Raspberry Pi. So hold on one second while we do that. While I'm doing that, how about we run a commercial while I get this crap ready? What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer CoCoSDC here, and when you are done with CoCoTALK, why not head on over to my YouTube channel and get your share of gameplay goodness. There you will find everything from the old school to the next gen. There are video game reviews, interviews, how-tos, and replays of CoCoTALK. So for all of your video game needs on YouTube, head on over to youtube.com/ogStevieStrow for your share of gameplay goodness today.
Are you ready? For the forest of doom.
At home, at the beach, in your car, at the shop, at the office, anywhere you enjoy fine audio programming. It's North America's premier source for color computer news, the CoCoCREW podcast.
This is John Linville.
And Neil Blanchard.
And we are the CoCoCREW. I hope it's going to be a great show.
Join John and Neil each month as they bring the latest news about the color computer, Dragon, MC10, and others. It's the CoCoCREW podcast. Visit www.cococrew.org and listen today.
You're listening to the CoCoCREW podcast.
Something new is coming.
Tandy Assembly. Tandy Assembly is about Radio Shack and Tandy computers.
Tandy Assembly is about interacting.
Tandy Assembly is about people.
Tandy Assembly is about fun.
The first gathering of its kind.
Computers of the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
All Radio Shack and Tandy makes and models.
Join us. Don't miss Tandy Assembly.
In Chillicothe, Ohio.
October 7th and 8th.
Whether you're near or far.
Tandy Assembly is for everyone.
Visit our webpage at www.tandyassembly.com.
Tandy Assembly.
All right, I think I got it all figured out right now. I got Popstar Pilot loaded onto disk 3. Thanks for putting me on the spot like this. It really makes me look like I'm a professional guy here. All right, so we're going to go into, I have to have the right wireless keyboard here now too. All right, so we're going to go over to option number 1. We're going to pull up a CoCo 3. And now that I have that HDB-DOS translation thing turned on, this freaking thing's not working. All right, here we go. So now if I type in dir space 2, that's Popstar. Okay, so if I type in drive 2, which I've mounted through DriveWire, and I type in dir, and I just run Popstar. Okay, this should run it. Checking chip RGB. Okay, and it's loading up. So I don't know if Nick is still there. And here we go. Here's Popstar Pilot running on this. So will it read my joystick? Press any key to start. I don't know if it's going to read my joystick right now or not. Okay. Okay, the joystick reading is a little bit off, but I'm sure that's something I can mess with. But yeah, the scrolling seems to be pretty smooth. So I have not tweaked what the inputs are for this. Right, so I'd actually have to go to and see even this. My keyboard is a little bit off. My keyboard's wigging out, and I'm not sure what's causing that. So that's something I don't have the time or patience to mess with. But to answer Nick's question, I think the answer is yes. It can run Popstar Pilot.
I would assume it'd be able to run 639 as well then too, right? Well, you were running Nitrous 9?
Yeah. So I don't know what the heck the deal is here on my inputs. Yeah, so that's something I'd have to figure out with how do I tweak what the inputs are in my joystick settings. And even now when I press tab to bring up that menu, this is freaking out. So like you see how it's kind of scrolling up and down. I don't know if that's my wireless keyboard or if it's also reading the joystick as part of this. And these are things that I just don't understand enough about the thing to fix. But I think it's reading my joystick and it's spazzing out right now. So I can't like change the input settings on here. There's got to be a different way to do that. So if I take off that keyboard menu. But yeah, I mean, it runs. And it seems pretty smooth.
MAME, so it'll run everything, right?
Yeah. But the question is will it perform as good as a real CoCo 3? And I think it's okay. Now, unfortunately, again, I can't control it smooth enough so we could see how smooth it plays. Yeah, and the reason why it's loading quicker is because it's running in the double speed poke and it's loading it off a DriveWire. So yeah, it does load a little bit faster. So really, what is CoCoPi? It's a Raspberry Pi running MAME, running color computer stuff, but it's a real custom thing that Ron Klein has tweaked for us, and he's put a lot of cool features in here, like the fact that we can do this over DriveWire, and the fact that we can use DriveWire on our PC to talk to the DriveWire server running on the CoCoPi and load up the disks there, and not have to do it through the CoCoPi itself. So DriveWire is acting like a client and a server talking to DriveWire on another machine. I think that's pretty brilliant, honestly. And so I think there's a lot of cool things to it. And one of the reasons why I've kind of just resisted talking about it is you're seeing now, because I look like an idiot right now trying to show you what it does. But it is really cool. It's a really cool project. A Raspberry Pi by itself. The Raspberry Pi that I purchased, I think I got for $44, and it came with a wall, thing you can plug into the wall to charge it, and it came with some heat sinks and a few things like that. So there's a lot of different ways you can buy a Raspberry Pi 3. You can buy it single board by itself for $25, $35. You can buy kits with plastic cases and other accessories and things like that. So
Stevie,
yeah,
how did the Raspberry Pi get the name?
I don't know.
And what does it mean?
Honestly,
I used to know this too, because they on Twit they've actually interviewed the person that created this in the first place, but I honestly can't remember the story anymore.
I think it was supposed to be something about because it was geared for education, they wanted it to be something friendly. I think that was something to do with it, but yeah, I don't know exactly either.
Yeah, I know it's developed in Cambridge by a group that remembered the BBC Acorn and thinking about how it really inspired people.
FiScap is saying it's based on the legacy of fruit-based names PCs, like the Apple.
The apricot.
And it's geared towards Python development.
Yeah, it was.
When it first came out, the original Raspberry Pi, it was remarkable that you could buy a computer that could run Linux for about $35. When Raspberry Pi first came out, it was like a $35 machine for the first version of it. We're now on the Raspberry Pi 3. And the one thing I do know is that the main OS it runs is called Raspbian, which is a hybrid of Raspberry and Debian, right? So it's a form of the Debian Linux that it runs.
And Nick has a good point in chat too. He said the price is certainly a big advantage over the FPGA builds, because it's like $40 versus $200 to get the Nano or the CoCo FPGA
Right, right.
Now, mind you, those are more hardware emulators with more hardware to them. But.
Yeah.
It's a good thing too is there's only like 5 or 6 different variations of the Raspberry over its lifetime, so it's very consistent hardware. So when you build, you know exactly what you're getting.
So you could get something like this case, and you could put it in a case. Now, what Ron Klein has actually done is he's actually put the Raspberry Pi inside a real CoCo 3 case. And what Chris Hawks of Hawksoft has done, who's from the Glen side, he has created a USB to CoCo keyboard adapter. So you can take that Mylar ribbon cable that plugs into the CoCo motherboard. It will receive that and then convert that to USB. So you can plug in a real CoCo keyboard into your Raspberry Pi. So Ron Klein has actually built his Raspberry Pi inside a CoCo 3 keyboard with a CoCo 3 case and keyboard running his Raspberry Pi 3, which is kind of cool. The fact it's running MAME means it does pretty good on emulating. Karen is here right now too. Karen has developed a version of XROAR for it too, right? Or maybe Karen just dropped off. But yeah, Karen was tweaking a version of XROAR to run for the Raspberry Pi 3 as well. And XROAR's got the best color emulation that there is. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I know I didn't do it a lot of justice, and I probably spent 10 times longer than was needed to show it off, but hopefully I answered some of your questions on what it is.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a great replacement for the real thing. You know, as they're going to be harder and more expensive to come by. So to get newer people into it, it's going to be another.
Right, and Karen, you're back, right? Karen, you also released a version of XROAR to run on the Raspberry Pi too, right? I'm not sure if Karen, can you hear us? Anyways, it's there. I've seen it. It's on there, and I think it's been optimized to run on that. It definitely is it's an affordable way to run a CoCo, and because everything's on that kind of micro SD card, it makes it very easy to get to your content. I'm not sure how super duper elegant it is. Again, I wish Ron was here. There is a way to get to a way to load files that's easier than what I'm showing you through the normal main menu. He added something to a menu, so when you hit tab, there's a way to get to a list of disks that you can load that are pre-populated. We just had somebody subscribe. Lego versus Minecraft subscribe. Thank you. So yeah, and FiScap is asking, do you know if Ron plans to be at Tandy Assembly? I believe he said he did. So I might actually drag mine to Tandy Assembly and have it plugged into. I plan on bringing a real CoCo. Maybe I'll bring my CoCo Pi as well, especially after I get it plugged in and figured out how it works. And I'll have the Tandy joysticks working on it and stuff like that. So it might be neat to show off.
Where's that CoCo Pi at? Is it on the archives?
It might be on the archives, but it's on my website, I'mACoconut.com. So if you go to I'mACoconut.com and click on downloads, there's 3 different links for it. I'm hosting it on my website. Rick Adams is hosting it, and Simon Jonason is also hosting it in Denmark. So we've got 2 different U.S. links and a UK mirror as well, where you can get the image. And you got to burn the image onto an SD card with a piece of software. It's called Win32 Disk Imager. There's a link to the software you need too on there. Yeah, so if you go to I'mACoconut.com and then you click on downloads, it'll be there. You'll see a link for the Raspberry Pi. And on that page, you can download the image as well as download the tool you need to burn it onto the SD card.
And it's I'mACoconut.com, right?
I'mACoconut.com.
Hey, Steve, can you run that software on a laptop with Linux on it?
That you have to ask Ron Klein. I mean, probably you could, but I don't know enough about Linux to dissect it. But yeah, it's a bunch of scripts and it's a bunch of stuff in folders. So I would say yes.
On Linux, so yeah.
Yeah, but now
you'd have to compile it yourself or find a version of MAME for that laptop. So because it's RISC-based on the Raspbian, right?
Right, that's an ARM processor, not an Intel.
Right, right.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's pretty neat that it's fairly self-contained. It's fairly user-friendly. It's, one person has been working on this project, and I think he's done a hell of a job with it. And it's, like anything else, from humble beginnings, it'll grow into something more than that. One of the things that is rather nice about the the RetroPie is it does have that front end GUI where you can use your joystick and scroll around and choose what type of system you want to emulate, and then scroll through the gallery of artwork of which image you want to load. So it doesn't have that, but it's not to say that it couldn't. But I think one of the things he did is it's really optimized because it's not running the X Windows, it's not running a GUI. It's everything is talking directly to the video driver from MAME, so it's using MAME's own interfaces, and that's been optimized. The resolution it runs in's been optimized. So everything he did was to tweak it to get the most frames per second and smoothness and performance out of CoCo. So it's a super optimized CoCo emulation package that he's developed. You know.
Speaking of emulation, did I read somewhere that there was an Z80 emulator on the CoCo?
A Z80 emulator that runs on the CoCo?
Yeah, there's a CPM emulator on the CoCo. I don't know if it was Z80 specifically. There's videos of it up on. It's not the quickest thing in the world either, but it runs under OS9, and he was running like WordStar and stuff off of it. So.
Yeah, you can search for it on YouTube. The demo is really quite impressive.
I thought that's pretty cool to emulate another computer from the CoCo.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what like all these transcodes are doing, you know.
Yeah, like Donkey Kong and
Pac-Man transcode have been basically translating to the Z80. Jim Gary has corrected me. It's Z80.
He's right.
Yeah, come on, Steve.
Isn't that Zilog?
What's that?
Isn't it Zilog? Z-I-L-O-G?
Zilog, yeah.
Zilog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you for sure, MAME won't run on the Pi.
MAME does run on the Pi.
Well, not the one I tried.
Okay, well, the Raspberry Pi 3 it does. We just showed it off.
You did.
That's what that's what the CoCo Pi is. It's Raspberry Pi 3 running MAME to emulate CoCo 1, 2, and 3.
Wow.
And I've got it running on my Raspberry Pi version B.
Okay. I have to recompile.
The one key is that so many people make this mistake is that just because it says Linux doesn't mean it's going to run, because there's ARM, RISC. There's still some devices that are still using the PowerPC CPUs, and each of those are completely different CPUs, and thus, just because it says Linux doesn't mean it's going to work. You have to build the binary for the CPU that you're using it on.
Found that out.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Hey, Steve, how's the weather out there right now?
As far as I can tell, it's fine. I don't hear anything. I got my headphones on, but the house isn't shaking or anything like that. So,
all right.
David, did you have anything technical you wanted to talk about this week?
Well, Curtis and I wanted to make a small announcement. It's a small thing, so otherwise I don't have much to discuss other than that.
You've been sick this week, so.
Okay, well let me cue you guys in with your little infographic here. So hold on 1 second.
It's time for Tech Talk with David Ladd and Curtis Boyle. Take it away, tech dudes.
How do you like that? Nothing's cooler than being introduced by the speech and sound cartridge.
Yeah. Next we'll do a speak up version.
Yeah. So the thing that has come up, and I think Barry brought this up probably almost a year or two ago now. Cavewalker, when it was developed, was actually made so it would run on OS9 level 1 or level 2, but it shipped on OS9 level 1 because more people had CoCo 1 and 2s. But something Barry found out that Cavewalker wouldn't run on Nitrous 9 level 2 on real hardware. And the funny thing is, though, is if you run that exact same image on VCC, it runs, which is course, we know how unreliable VCC is, so...
Okay.
So Curtis had me doing some tests, and I certainly got a crash course on using DED in Nitrous 9, and he had me trying some...
What is DED? Is that an editor?
Yeah, disk editor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Curtis had me disassemble all the binaries for Cave Walker, and I sent them to him. And then using MAME, I did a trace of the stuff that was going on, and I sent that to Curtis. And he had me trying some stuff, and we managed to get it working, but I don't know how. Curtis, you'd probably have a better chance of explaining what it was doing with something with the IRQ interrupt for...
Yeah, basically, like, we ran a trace on it a month or two ago when I had a brief blip of free time, and found out that it was getting stuck in a loop in the kernel, like right in the OS9 itself, like in the system. And it was getting stuck in an infinite loop, basically. It just kept looping through this table over and over again and just would never come out. So that's why the machine froze. It wasn't actually frozen, like dead. It was actually just stuck in an infinite loop in OS9 P1. So this time around, when he did it again, I decided to try to take a look if there was anything weird that was going on. And from the looks of the... Which module was it? Cave main or Cave? I can't remember now.
It was Cave. It was enabling the VSync IRQ, I think he was stating.
Yeah. Well, one of the first things it does is it enables the PIA version of the VSync IRQ, which OS9 level 2 you normally let the gimme handle that. And it immediately, we're looking at the trace, as soon as they enabled that, it immediately jumped off, like the IRQ triggered, and it went running off into the system table. And I'm guessing, I haven't fully figured out why, but it looks like, I think it's trying to go through the IRQ table, because OS9 builds a table of every device you have set up to handle IRQs, and then it has these masks and stuff it does to figure out, okay, which hardware device actually triggered it. Because the CoCo doesn't have an actual IRQ controller like a PC does. So you have to guess, is it an RC32 pack? Was it the timer? Or was it, whatever? And I think what is happening is that because OS9 itself builds its tables as it boots up and the drivers kick in and stuff, so, the mouse driver and the keyboard driver and the clock driver all trigger the gimme to do the VSync IRQ. The way Cave Walker was doing it manually, not telling OS9 about it whatsoever. So basically, it was causing IRQs to start getting generated, but it wouldn't...
Hello.
Yeah, of course that happens right now.
Is that a fax?
Well, good to hang up.
Is 1980 calling with a fax?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a landline, kids. So basically what's happening is that the IRQ table that OS9 uses to go through to figure out what device is triggering IRQ and then to call that appropriate driver to handle it. Cave Walker's cheating and enabling IRQ for its own purposes, but not telling OS9. So it was triggering, running off to the IRQ service routine, which is then busy going through all of its checks to figure out what triggered it, but nothing that OS9 knows about triggered it. So it goes all the way through the loop and goes, I can't find it. I better try again. Just in case, I have a slow piece of hardware and it didn't figure out the mask. And it just goes in an infinite loop, getting stuck, trying to find this IRQ that's never been put into the table. And that's why I think it was hanging, because we basically just took the enabling of the IRQ out. We just no-opt it, changed 3 bytes in the code. And the other thing we did, too, is hard-coded to use term, and it needs VDG term. This is one thing about the repository, and maybe some people that have been more involved with the repository know the reasoning for this. But back in the OS9 level 2 days, and then into the Nitrous 9 days, we had a VDG descriptor called VERM, V-E-R-M. And the whole point and purpose of that was that you could have a term for your windowing system and a term for your VDG, both loaded at the same time. And if you had any of the old level 1 games or level 1 programs that were hard-coded to use term, because that's all you had back then, if you needed to patch it, you could just patch it quickly. You could just take DED or a disk editor or whatever, go in and change the T to a V, re-verify the module, and if you ran it, it would run fine. But for some reason, that got removed in the repository now. It doesn't get built. You don't get it normally. And you can't patch in any of these ones that were looking for term or looking for a thing that's 4 characters long. And if you try to patch it to use V1 or V2 or some of the other VDG windows that are built in, it never matches because it's trying to find a 4-byte match with V1, so it's picking up whatever garbage is after and going, that doesn't match. So we had to do 2 patches. We had to patch. We had to put the verm descriptor into your boot. We had to patch the hard-coded term access to read to verm, so it actually gets the VDG version, not the windowing version. And then we just basically ripped out the enable the PIA version of the vsync timer hierarchy, and then it started working in MAME. And now CaveWalker is running. Now David's been ill, and I haven't had a chance to fire up my CoCo in 2 months, so we haven't tried it on real hardware yet. But MAME's pretty decent at doing real hardware emulation properly. Like if he tried it on VCC, I wouldn't quite trust whether it's going to work on real hardware or not. But in this case, I think we found out what's causing it, and it might be the cause of problems with, I think it was Interbank Incidents, the other one that crashes.
Yeah, I think Interbank is also one that just hangs as well.
Okay, so if we're lucky, this patch and the way we did it should work on both once we figure out the addresses to change in Interbank as well. But it appears we might have CaveWalker running under Nitrous 9 again.
Neat. I have a question. Hey, sometimes if I fire up like a writer program or something, and we have a joystick that we have to plug in the color computer, probably in DOS, RS Radio Shack DOS. Do you have, in order for the mouse pointer to work, do you have to have it plugged in already, or can you plug it in after the program's already loaded? How does
you plug it in already after it's loaded? It's just reading analog pots, and it really doesn't care.
Okay, I wondered about that because there are times that has worked, and it flips me out because with a MS-DOS machine or whatever, you have to have the driver in first.
Well, on MS-DOS machines, also with like the PS2 mice, PS2 keyboards, you cannot plug those in when the system's on. Otherwise, you risk blowing the PS2 controller on the motherboard. There's a lot of stuff that you're
PS2 is not a well thought out design.
Yeah, well, it's not hot swappable, and that one also had to be detected by the BIOS when you first booted it up, or if BIOS didn't see it, then the computer would never know they were there. But CoCo's not like that. Right?
Which is weird because the original PCXTs, like the old mice, like a serial mouse you can plug in whenever the heck you want, and then the USB mice you can plug in whenever the heck you want. I don't know why they went backwards to doing the PS2 one, keyboard and the mouse both.
Yeah,
it's a dumb design decision, but the CoCo, no, it's just reading analog. You can plug them in whenever you want. You can plug in the high-res joystick interface whenever you want. Same thing.
That was the next question.
Yeah, Jim Gary is saying, is Muli-View running on Nitrous 9?
Yes, an improved version of it.
An improved version of it.
In fact, on Ron's page there, I put up a picture because he showed it. He was running stock Muli-View, and I showed him what the Nitrous 9 version looks like.
Is that available on the archive?
It's in the repository. Is it on the archive? I haven't really looked, to be honest.
I don't think it's in the archive, Kurt, but it's in SourceForge's third-party section.
Sorry, what was that, David?
I was going to say, the original release of Muli-View is on the archive. There still needs to be some tweaks to the Muli-View that's in the repository to bring it up to the stuff that you keep wanting as default settings. But
yeah, like the environment file that it uses to do all of its defaults, they're still using the stock one, so it's missing a lot of the extra stuff we added. So that's got to be cleaned up at some point.
Well, that's cool, though. So basically, you guys have solved the problem that up until now has not been solved.
We hope. We haven't tried on real hardware.
Okay. But that's pretty cool. That's very cool. Well, thanks for doing that.
We also figured out how to change the palettes, too, because David always hated the way it changed the colors in every room you went in, so we've kind of figured out how to fix that, too. That's more of an optional one, obviously.
Okay.
Yeah, because CaveWalker on OS9 level 2, every room had its own color set. So when you went on a CoCo 3, that is. So when you went into each of those different rooms, you got a completely different set of colors, which for me drove me completely ape. And I said, no, I can't stand this. There's got to be a way to turn this off.
I believe it made all your hair fall out, didn't it?
No, that was already gone before I was out of high school. So.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
I had to sneak one David rib in there today. So.
Well, let's just say thank you to you guys. And I'm sure if it's not completely polished, it will be, and that's pretty cool. That's definitely pretty cool. Let's switch gears now for just a minute, and let's take a look at what's new and exciting with Tandy Assembly. And if you're not familiar with what Tandy Assembly is, well, it is kind of like a CoCo Fest, or kind of like a VCE, Vintage Computing Festival, VCF type thing. It's kind of like one of these events, but this is the first event ever that's dedicated to all things Tandy, and this is being put together by the CoCoCREW podcast and the Trash Talkers and Randy Kindig of Floppy Days. So it is a gathering, if you will, that's going to be taking place October 7th and 8th in Chillicothe, Ohio. And it's going to be a pretty cool event, and this is the first of its kind. And so you can think of it as a CoCo Fest Plus, right? Because not only will there be CoCos there, but there will be other TRS-80 machines there. There's going to be, from the black and white TRS-80 systems up to the IBM compatible MS-DOS based Tandy systems, right? So a lot of things going on. And there's going to be, like CoCo Fest and like a lot of these events, there's going to be speakers and events, and there's an exhibit area, right? So our keynote speakers, that lineup has not changed at this point. That's probably going to be fairly solidified since we're roughly a month away, all right? So Scott Adams of Adventure International, Don French, the TRS-80 story, Lance Michaelis from Bank Robbers to Facebook, and Rick Adams, the Resurrection of Bomb Threat, which we saw earlier now is available on a cartridge and will be available at Tandy Assembly, which is very good. John Linville will be talking about keeping the CoCo in the game. Peter Satinsky of the Trash Talkers is going to be talking about the history of the TRS-80 Model 2 line. I'll be telling my short story of my rise to mediocrity on YouTube. Brendan Donahue will be talking about the 64-column text project for the CoCo VGA. And Randy Kindig will be talking about Tandy's portable computers through the years. Very cool. And these are the newest lineups right now. But Arno Pewter and Sasha Herberling is an Android-based emulator and retro app store for the TRS-80 Model 1 and 3, which I think is really, really cool. All right. So those are our speakers. We've got a lot of exhibitors, people who will be showing off things in the exhibitors areas. So I will be there with a CoCo 3 running Donkey Kong Remix and Popstar Pilot, things like that for people to play on a Wyco controller. Mike Rohn will be there. Richard Lorbieski will be there. Peter Satinsky will be there. Cloud9 will be there. Peter Bartlett and Malcolm Ramey will be there. Randy Kindig will be an exhibitor. Retro Innovations, our friend Jim Brain. Ian Maverick, all the way from Australia. That's like the Australian version of Ed Snyder. He does a lot of TRS-80 hardware projects. Brendan Donahue's CoCo VGA. Alan Hightower showing off from the Model 1000 all the way through the Model 5000, all the different PC-compatible Tandy lines. John Linville will be there. Evan Wright showing off his text adventure project. Scott Adams will be there. Michael Brandt, my co-pilot and carpool buddy. Rick Adams will be there showing off Bomb Threat the game. Brett Gordon will be showing off more of Fuzix or Fuzzix or whatever it's called, right? George Phillips from Vancouver. We're showing off TRS-80 demos and other demos. And then FiceCap will be here now. Paul Fiscarelli. So Windeck Systems, Retro Computer Solutions. That's a cool looking little plate he's created there too. I like that. So those will be our different exhibitors that will be showing up in the exhibit area. And then we have, this is the schedule so far. So Saturday at 9 a.m. the show opens. 9:30 Don French's keynote address. 11 o'clock Rick Adams will be talking about Bomb Threat. At 12 o'clock Brendan Donahue will be talking about hacking Disk Extended Color Basic for 64 columns. Lance Michaelis will go on at 1 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, Arno and Sasha will be speaking about this Android system. At 3 o'clock, I'll be going on. 4 o'clock will be the auction, the minimum no-bid auction. That's always a big event at CoCo Fest, so hopefully this will be good. We're going to do a live stream, so CoCoTALK will be live, 7 p.m. Chicago time, or Ohio time, whatever time that is, right? So we're going to have similar to CoCoTALK, and we're going to have all the podcast people together. So hopefully some guys from CoCoCREW will be there, and the Trash Talkers will be there, and Randy Kindig will be there, Floppy Days. And we'll do a similar thing where it'll be an open forum discussion with both a live stream and people in the audience. We'll actually have a live audience there because people from the event will be there. So that'll be kind of interesting. This will be followed up with like the Jeopardy show or the trivia show. So that's going to happen at 8:30. And then at 9 o'clock is going to be social hour. So that's a pretty full day for Saturday. And then Sunday, the show opens at 9. Scott Adams will be our keynote speaker at 9:30. Randy Kindig at 11. John Linville will close out the show at 12. And at 3 p.m., everything will shut down Sunday. And if you've learned anything by going to CoCoFest, you definitely want to make sure you stay the whole time. In this case here, you know, because when CoCoFest would end, because Sunday was the last day, some people would book their flights to fly out Sunday, and you do miss some social stuff Sunday evening, right? So if you're able to stay all day Sunday, and because we're driving there, you know, we'll be staying in the hotel through Sunday night, driving home Monday. So if there's like a dinner party or like an after party Sunday night, I'll be there for that too, which would be kind of cool. All right, so that's what's going on for Tandy Assembly. It's shaping up to be quite a good little event. For those of you who can make it, I look forward to seeing you there in person. And for those of you who can't, hopefully we'll see you on the internet when we live stream some of the stuff going on there. Good stuff. Anybody got anything they want to chime in about regarding Tandy Assembly?
Wish I could make it, but just work schedule won't allow it. So
yeah,
make sure that not everybody buys out all of the cartridges for Bomb Threat, because I want to buy them at CoCoFest. So
okay, well remind me, and if I can reserve one for you, I will. I think we heard from John earlier. There's only going to be about maybe 20, so limited supplies.
Yeah, I don't know if he meant that as like the first production run in general, if that's just for Tandy Assembly, and there's another run for the CoCoFest or not.
Right. Okay. But yeah, if I'm able to and financially capable, I'll grab one for you as well.
Okay. If not, I can just get it at the show because then I can get Rick to. I mean, he's coming to CoCoFest too, so I can get him to autograph it too. So
true.
Actually, I'll just wait then, and you don't have to haul some other extra stuff around.
All right. Who else here might be at Tandy Assembly that's in the call right now? Grant, you're going to be there, right?
Yes, I am planning on going.
Okay. So Grant and I met for the first time at CoCoFest this year. David Ladd and I met for the first time at CoCoFest last year. Same with Curtis. Well, you know, Curtis and I were kind of internet buddies. We met in person last year at CoCoFest. So it's kind of cool when you make your friends and you get to meet some people in person. Mike Newman says, I wish I could make it. Yep, we wish you could make it too, Mike. It's just one of those things.
How long drive is it for you?
I think from we're going to be leaving from Central Florida, so it's about 12 hours. Last time I checked.
Yeah, it'll be about 11 hours here from Kansas City.
Which isn't the end of the world, you know. And like, yeah, we'll probably live stream some stuff from the car trip, from the road trip, you know.
If I start walking now, I'll get there in time.
Yeah. It is, you know, you do have to make a sacrifice to be there, right? You have to make sure if you have a job that you can schedule the time off. You have to make sure you can afford the hotel and the travel arrangements and all that kind of stuff. And I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to get a really cool something or another at the auction, because I've been to 2 CoCoFests, saw some really cool auctions on things I could not buy because they wouldn't fit in my suitcase. What are you doing there, Ron? You trying to catch something?
Ah, darn.
Are you trying to grab my mouse pointer? Yeah. Okay, I'll leave it there for you. I don't think anybody else can see that, but that's Ron's grabbing my mouse pointer.
Breaking news. I just saw on the CoCo List, Tormod just said Toolshed version 2.2 was just released. And HDB-DOS 1.5 was just released.
Yay. Is HDB-DOS what runs on the CoCoSDC?
Yep.
Okay, so we've got a couple of updates. No?
HDB-DOS is what's used for IDE controllers, SCSI controllers, DriveWire, MFM.
Okay, gotcha. That's SDC-DOS that runs on the CoCoSDC.
Yeah, Steve, if you got the CoCo List on your email, they're handy. The announcements went through, and there and actually lists exactly what is updated.
Let me see if I can get to it. And then I think we're going to probably want to wrap up this week's CoCoTALK here pretty soon, too, because I do want to check on the weather and everything else. All right. Let me...
Yep, they are the top two.
Yeah, nobody else can see that yet, so hold on one second. Let me switch that over. I have too many things on my screen to click on now at this point. It's becoming a challenge for me to manage all these different things. All right, so here we go. Toolshed 2.2 is released. This is Tormod. Okay, it's released today with only a few changes.
Since the beta.
Supports larger disk images on 32-bit, thanks to David Ladd. We talked about that, right? Documents reworked, Tim Lindner. Lots of fixes and codes cleaned up, Tim Lindner. OS9 format and OS9 gen fixes, David Ladd. Look at you, David Ladd, just taking over the world of floppies here. You are. Cluster and sector size fixes by Tormod and Toolshed print Toolshed version to help text. Okay. So here's the links to that. I need to save this because I don't have this in my CoCoNut site, so I'm going to save that. Okay, and I'll add that later. So now we also have HDB-DOS 1.5 released, also announced by Tormod. It has been released. Here's a download link. It contains pre-built ROM, disk, WAV images files. Here's the changes. Allows access to drive number 255 by Robert Galt. FDC track format. Side 1, side 0 correctly encoded with track buffer, David Ladd, being mentioned again. Becker 2 build option for timeout and the Becker port routines, David Ladd. Look at this. So, David Ladd, you are just becoming the king of all floppies, large and small. Very cool. So, I'm going to favorite or star these two, and I'll get those links added to... yeah, and this is what the CoCo list looks like, if you were asking earlier, Ron. Right, so I just created in my Google, I created a little folder called CoCo Mailing List, and I created a little rule, so everything that comes from there comes in here, so I don't see it all buried in my inbox. And yeah, and so a lot of these things will stay threaded, and sometimes they got broken. So you can see here, there's 3 listings of CoCo 1 XPads, so this thread has been broken and replied to broken pieces. It's a shattered, fragmented thread, and that happens for some reason. But yeah, a lot of mostly more technical discussions take place on the mailing list. But it's definitely a great resource. Glen Hewlett had a lot of good things to say about it as he was developing and working on his Pac-Man. He's saying he got a lot of great support from there. So, you know, Facebook is one resource for sharing information, and the mailing list is definitely another. I think they both serve a very good purpose. And depending on what you like, and you know, of course, then there's also the IRC chat.
Yes, which I also use quite a bit.
Another place to hang out. And then we've also got our little behind-the-scenes Skype group going on here. So if there's if there's one community that can help fragment itself, it's the CoCo community. We'll find ways to.
And don't forget the Yahoo group.
The Yahoo group, holy crap! Yahoo.
Don't forget the OS9 and CoCo forums on Fido-Net. Are those still around?
Oh crap! I don't know.
That's why we're getting ribs fired back up again, darn it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I never really did too much BBS type stuff on the CoCo, so that would be interesting to see what that's like. Getting something going through DriveWire or through some other something or another, right? I'm wondering if the RetroPie has a way to convert that to serial, kind of like the.
I read a list where someone could access with a real CoCo and their SDC the DriveWire server simultaneously. Is there a special setting on DriveWire to do that?
You got to repeat the question. A lot of background noise there.
I was reading on a mail list where somebody had connected a real CoCo and their CoCo SDC, or no, the FPGA, to DriveWire simultaneously, and were able to pass files back and forth between the two. Is there a special setting on DriveWire to do that?
Actually, that was me that put that post up. And actually, no. What I basically did was I took the DriveWire server, mounted an image on there, and also mounted the same image in VCC, going through another DriveWire server, and actually was able to read the files directly back and forth between the two.
Okay, so you had 2 servers running simultaneously?
Yes.
Okay. and they're accessing the file, so you have to be real careful what you're doing, right?
Yes, and I actually did it one step further with Roger's CoCo on a chip. He's actually got a CoCoNet server, which is very similar to DriveWire, and did the same thing. So I was able to actually transfer files back and forth between the CoCo on a chip and the real CoCo 3.
Okay, that's cool. I could have used that about 6 months ago.
I have a program, it's MS-DOS. It's called S-Term. It's a small program that brings up a little dialog box that brings up telnet thing, and you can set your I use a called one of these. I don't know if you can see it. It's a serial to parallel to serial, USB 9-pin.
Yeah.
So 4-pin to 9-pin, and using that S-term, it basically hooks you into the internet, and you can surf on the CoCo.
So you're having your computer act as that bridge that is the serial.
X is an X-ray.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of neat application for doing stuff like that. Yeah, so there's things that I definitely want to get into and cover more on the show. I want to cover more on DriveWire. We're definitely going to cover more on Nitrous 9 and OS9. Get into assembly. There's lots of different ways you can run DriveWire. I mean, I'm running DriveWire now over a serial cable to a real CoCo, and it's interesting to know that you can load things in through a GUI on your PC. These are like first world problems to complain about, but the challenge I have right now is if I want to move things between my CoCoSDC and my computer, I've got to unplug the SD card, stick it in my PC, put files on the SD card, put the SD card back into the CoCoSDC. And again, first world problems, right? I really should be complaining about that. But when you have something like DriveWire and you can just say, okay, mount this disk into slot 4, and then you just type in drive 4 and you load up the disk, it's convenient, And when you can now do that over IP on your network, especially with an emulator, and you can manage DriveWire out the cable, that's really cool. And the fact that I could use my PC to configure the DriveWire on the CoCo Pi as you having a modern GUI to load up the different disks in there is very cool too.
Agreed.
So DriveWire is neat.
When I use my SDC, I make a backup on my PC and a backup on a second chip just in case.
Right, and so the one thing I do know about DriveWire is that you can't share the same disk image between more than one, real computer and virtual machine and things like that, or emulated machine.
Well, Bill,
you should be able to set up a Samba. Oh.
Yeah, Bill just said that he was doing that between his real CoCo or not the real CoCo, but the Nano and. What was it, Bill? The other machine? Or is Bill gone again?
He did say he had his real CoCo and his Nano talking to each other, though.
Okay. Yeah. Now, Aaron did warn about doing that when that question came up, because there is the risk of two machines talking to the same disk image of corrupting it. Or, if both of them decide to write to the same thing and then you get over talk, and so there's a risk doing that. So you just got to be careful.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll dig more into it. We'll dig more into DriveWire and the different ways to do DriveWire and multiple instances of DriveWire. Definitely want to do a proper presentation on CoCo Pi. And
there's something else I wanted to bring up about the DriveWire cable. I saw two different wiring possibilities for. I'd like to know the right one. The 9-pin thing has I think it's 2, 3, and 5 or 4. It only uses 3 wires, I guess, basically. But there's other traces on the 9-pin that are, shorted together. I'm trying to make my own wire because my old one broke or something. And I'm all shaky guy here, and I try to stick that wire in there and get goobers on it and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I bought mine from Cloud9, so I bought a
that's what I'm going to want to do it probably. But is there just the 3 wires you use, or is there other things that you have to do on the 9-pin to make it work properly?
That I myself don't know. I went the lazy route back when Drivewire was still purchased from Cloud9. That's when I got the cable. And then I guess I forgot that I'd purchased the software and the cable. And a couple of years later, I bought it again and another cable. So
you're saying you have a spare for him?
Yeah.
I built my own cable.
That's what's hooked up to my CoCo 2 and CoCo 3, so they're both in use.
Oh.
I built my own using the one from CoCopedia. I'll post the link here. So
that'd be good.
Cool. Yeah, that's.
So, I didn't connect up the carrier detect, which is pin 1 on the 4-pin DIN. I actually rigged it to, I think, one of the X-on, X-off hardware lines because I've been trying to figure out a way of maybe using the cassette to trigger the opposite way because I'd like to get hardware flow control.
I think you could either set up Windows file sharing on the Pi, or even use a program like WinSCP, and just drag your disk images over to wherever your Drivewire.
On the Raspberry Pi, you can.
Having to turn off the Pi.
Yeah, we did that on the Raspberry Pi, but I don't know if it's that straightforward on every version of Drivewire, depending how you have it set up, though. What are we missing? Crash Code in the live chat says that my SDC is in the mail, so that's cool. CoCoSDC is a great little product. Probably one of the most useful products on the CoCo today. Yeah. Okay, so Mark Overholzer just posted that link to the cable. Cool. Yeah, I think we probably want to, well, at least I do. I want to start to wrap up CoCoTALK this week. I do want to go back out and check the news and check on the storm and things like that and see where things are coming along. We've had a nice little run here, almost 2.5 hours. I know it's kind of a short episode, but I guess we'll have to live with that, right? So it gives us more to talk about next week. Anything you guys want to mention before we start to sign off and say goodbye to everybody?
Well, I understand your predicament totally, and I'm thinking of you, buddy.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, keep in touch with us so we know, if you're gonna have a hard time of recovering.
Yeah. Well, right now we just have to wait for the storm to come and go and see what happens after that. So, but luckily it's been slowing down and it's not here. Originally we were thinking it was going to be here today. So the fact that it's not going to be even here till tomorrow, at least, we got a chance to have the show today, and that's the most important part, right? The show must go on. CoCo forever.
What city are you in, Steve?
I'm in Port St. Lucie. I'm on the East Coast. I'm just a little bit south of Lake Okeechobee, but on the East Coast. I'm not directly on the water. But what's that?
Looks like you may dodge the bullet.
Yeah, well, we're dodging the direct hit of the bullet, but we're still going to hit by the shrapnel. There's going to be a lot of shrapnel. So this storm is as big as our state is. So no matter where it is, we're going to feel it. And we still might lose power. You just never know. But we're prepared. And especially after Hurricane Andrew that happened like in the 90s. So the building codes have changed significantly. So any house built, like my house was built in 2005, so everything is Category 5 rated. Between the house, the roof, the garage doors, all that kind of stuff. So, my house is not going to be ripped off the ground, but we will probably lose power. And the city I'm in's got really bad drainage too. So, a normal bad rainstorm will cause flooding in the streets. So, a hurricane's definitely going to be flooding our streets. But our city is very well prepared too. Port St. Lucie is very involved. They've got a Facebook page and they got a website, and they're constantly updating everybody into what they're doing, what their plans are, and all kinds of stuff like that. So.
Is your house sandbagged?
What's that?
Is your house sandbagged?
No. But all of our houses are up on a hill, right? So the yards are like they're kind of up and then they kind of angle down into the street. So the houses are up on little mini hills. That's just kind of how they're built.
Bad drainage had me a little bit worried.
Yeah, no, but I mean anything can possibly happen. But I mean it's just one of the things you deal with it as it comes. Norlander saying according to the latest it's going to head to Tampa on the west coast, which is not good for them because Tampa Bay is going to get a lot of storm surge, things like that. So a lot of flooding is going to happen there. All right, anybody else got anything they want to mention before we sign off this week? Anything you're working on or want to share or looking forward to?
Well, hopefully I'll catch you before 3:30 next week.
Okay. Sounds good.
In my case, I'm hoping David and I, I hope David gets feeling better, and then you can actually test that Cave Walker patch and make sure it works on the real hardware. And if it does, we'll release it on the archive.
That's great. That's cool. Great. That's a great accomplishment. So for those of us who are left in the call right now, Mark Overholzer and Bill Noble and Grant Leedy and Curtis Boyle and Richard Crislip and Ron Delvaux and David Ladd and Glen Hewlett and William. How do you pronounce your last name, William? Is it Schaub?
Well, you actually got it right. Most people pronounce it with a W for some reason, but yeah, that's the way you pronounce it.
William Schaub. Okay. Mike Newman says, stay safe. Who did we have in the live chat today? Let's make sure we acknowledge everybody who was in our live chat. Steve Powell was here. Atari Leaf was here. Prestige was here. Michael Newman has been here. Retro Gaming Denmark was here from Denmark. Alexander Wallace from Mexico was here. Who else was in the live chat? Jim Gary was here. Always good to see Jim. Sixy, who is Kieran, was live in the call and in the chat. Norlander was here. Norlander says blame it on Irma. Feiscap was here. Paul Fiscarelli. Michael Newman, did I say Michael already? Bosco, that's our buddy Steve Bamford. Nick Morentis was here. I'm sorry Nick did not join us in person this week. It's probably one of the first times we haven't had Nick here. 60 Michael Newman. Crash Code was here just recently. Norlander, Feiscap. Okay, so I believe we've acknowledged everybody in the live chat. Thank you guys for being here live. Don't forget, I've got a brand new YouTube channel, which I'll be putting a lot more CoCo content on. There's a link to that on this video. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, there's lots of ways you can do that. You can get merchandise, you can buy a t-shirt, you can buy a DVD. We have now just set up a Patreon site, so if you want to become a regular supporter, you can do that. So there's different ways you can help support our efforts. Everything we're doing is for the love of it and for sharing our love and commitment to the CoCo and to retro. But if anybody wants to help out, we definitely appreciate that. And John Linville was here earlier. Who else did we miss? Sixy was here earlier. A few other people were on the call that are no longer here with us now. So I want to thank all of them for being here too. And until next week, we will bid you farewell on this week's CoCoTALK episode 25. We're going to play some music. I also want to mention one more thing too for those of you who are still watching. Something that we started doing that we're going to continue to do is that when we go off the air, we continue to record, so there's a little bit of extra after-show discussions that will take place for a few minutes. We started adding those as kind of value-added content to the audio podcasts. So if you listen a week later, you can hear some extra stuff. But I'll also start making some of that stuff available on Patreon too. So for the people who want to have some behind-the-scenes content, some extra content, we'll make more things available to you there too. So until next week, we are going to sign off live on CoCoTALK. Thank you all for being here. We're going to play some CoCo music, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Later.
Arrivederci.